Purple energy was emitted from both sides of the weight. Sangwoo tried to lift it up with his eyes wide open. Sangwoo gritted his teeth and grimaced, thinking, it's too heavy, but Sangwoo was quite satisfied. It was it, the weight he wanted. The machine next to the trainer was smoking because of Sangwoo's enormous strength. The electric sparks that flashed on both sides of the dumbbell were, well, exciting. After much effort, Sangwoo finally lifted it up. I could feel the excitement. Purple energy blocks and screws fell out before the trainer's eyes, making him widen his eyes in surprise. Sangwoo stepped on the ground, and several purple energy balls fell down. Sangwoo lifted the iron bar that had lost 2 weights and walked in front of the coach, saying, I'm sorry, the performance is quite good, Professor. The coach held the barbell with tears streaming down his face. Behind him was smoke and fire. Sangwoo was still happy. It was because they were rich, right? They had great equipment. I'll try to ask them to open the gym at night and let the clones work out. Sangwoo stopped and thought, now that you mention it, I haven't seen Shin Junyoung anywhere. Where did he go? The evaluation is about to start. He must have gone to do something. On the other side, Shin Jinik was sitting and talking with Shin Junyoung. So, is the academy dangerous? The Haesong Guild should prepare for that too. We've temporarily stopped them, but they're still a threat. Haesong Guild captain of Team 1 Shin Jinik folded his arms and said, so what kind of threat are they? Shin Junyoung said with concern, I can't say because of the elixir, it might be the reason the academy collapsed. Shin Jinik put his hand on his forehead. He was the captain of the second team. Those people would listen to his orders no matter what. It wasn't something they could handle. He should help us too. Shin Jinik asked again, I got the information along with Jung Sangwoo. Hey, what was the reason you entered the academy? Shin Jinik said something that made Shin Junyoung stiffen. If you want to play childish games, then go to the playground. We gave you all the support to enter that academy and you went to befriend Jung Sangwoo. Shin Jinik put his hand down and continued. The reason he needed help this time was probably the upcoming assessment, not like that. Shin Jinik stood up from his chair and laughed coldly. Ha ha, damn it, you must have felt like you had everything, so you did these things, huh? You should work harder instead of wasting time on those things. Shin Jinik left, leaving Shin Junyoung alone. I won't tell Dad about this time and pretend I never heard anything. Worry about your review. Shin Junyoung still sat silently on the chair listening to him speak. The guild didn't expect anything more than that. You know what to do. I tried my best. Blue energy sources were released one after another towards the distant steel. Around the steel, smoke and dust flickered, hazy. Haeyeon bent over and breathed heavily, thinking to herself, the level 3 doll didn't even move. She stared at her hands helplessly. She had acted up to Oppa Sangwoo a few days ago and her strength was enough to defeat the skeleton, and now, Sangwoo could throw a fireball even better than she could. Haeyeon gritted her teeth and decided that she couldn't be a burden to him anymore. Haeyeon suddenly shouted loudly, startling Yeon and the agent. Everyone, Haeyeon, what's wrong? I knew you were still brainwashed. Haeyeon said with concern, this is the only place I can rely on. I want to become stronger. Please let me join the JM organization. Night fell. The big villa became much darker. Only one window was still lit. Sangwoo's clone kicked the door open and shouted, open the practice room door, please. The principal was startled. Hunters at this hour. Clones hunting don't care about time. I can't use it all day today because of classes. He stuttered, but, practice room, go ahead. Sangwoo raised his fist in front of him, making him laugh in fear. Using the academy's facilities, outside of the class schedule, was perfectly fine. Hearing that, Sangwoo's clone turned around and left. I'll be using it all night, so don't turn off the lights, okay? The panicked principal said to himself, I tried to stop him, so this isn't my fault. Hunter Shin Junyoung. Sangwoo and the 2 clones walked and talked. 2 hours of training and then hunting. Repeat those 2 things, understood? Throwing open the doors to the practice room, Sangwoo opened his mouth wide and said, here, use them as you wish. We own this place for the whole night, so. Suddenly he stopped and stared inside the room. In another development, Do-won sat on a pile of monsters he had just killed. Opposite him was a pink-haired monster. Mr. Do-won, Mr. Do-won, why don't you answer? Hunter On Soken, bully the lowly company somewhere else. I'll eat here today. Do-won still spoke calmly while the monster gritted his teeth in anger. Anyway, why are you talking like that? Me, bastard, I'm used to this. Do-won looked at him with a puzzled look. Just listen to me. It's about Shin Junyoung. The monster growled loudly. Shin Junyoung, that bastard, I think he faked his ranking. He thought back to that time. He grabbed Shin Junyoung's neck and lifted him up high. After losing that match, he got mad and got into a fight. Suddenly, the system panel appeared before his eyes, surprising him. Wait a minute. The system board shows that the opponent's stats are too low. Underestimating the weak has reached its limit. He clenched his fists and frowned. Jung Sangwoo appeared so I couldn't find out clearly, but Shin Junyoung wasn't it. The night sky was dark. The room's windows still let out light. A B-class hunter, or what we call a high-rank hunter. In the practice room, Shin Junyoung was panting, sweating profusely. Jung Sangwoo. Sangwoo was surprised to see Junyoung. Junyoung's hands were on the floor. In front of him was a 3 kilograms weight. Beside his feet were also full of medicine bottles scattered all over the floor. Shin Junyoung knelt down on his hands and knees, his whole body trembling. All of this was. Shin Junyoung's eyes widened. Why are you here? The system panel appears again. Passive Grand Mage. You can learn all skills faster than anyone else. All skills you have learned will be automatically upgraded to the maximum level. Text on the transfer system, penalty, weak mage, all stats modified to 0.2. Sangwoo said in a dazed voice, I think we need an explanation here. Shin Junyang's whole body trembled. What exactly happened? He turned around and left. I was just practicing for the assessment. I'm almost done, Sangwoo called out. Shin Junyang. Sangwoo quickly grabbed Shin Junyang's shoulder. Don't leave like that. Shin Junyang shook Sangwoo's hand away and shouted, don't you see? Exhausted after just lifting a 3 kilograms dumbbell, isn't it funny? He gritted his teeth and said with difficulty, that is the skill I obtained after awakening. All my abilities are fixed at 0.2. Hearing that, Sangwoo was stunned. The professor rested his chin on his hand and asked, all the skills you learned are at the highest level? Is that true? Yes. The professor glanced at Haesong and said, that's a great talent, huh? Perhaps, we can see Korea's first S-rank hunter here. The little boy gave a forced smile. I used to be a magic genius. Shin Junyang smiled brightly and raised his hand to create magic, causing the surroundings to be filled with smoke and dust. The professor standing next to him shouted loudly, no, you learned fireball just like that? Shin Junyang recounted, except for awakening skills, I can also copy any normal skill I see within 1 to 2 months. 2 staff members were struggling to carry the glass case. Inside was a blue sphere. The skills I couldn't copy were all kept in Haesong's warehouse. He was happy when he cast magic. Everyone had hope in me. Even father believed in me. Haesong smiled proudly at having a talented son. He is the future of Haesong. His brother walked away with a dark face. Keep up the good work. Shin Junyang happily glanced at his father walking beside him. Then his whole body trembled, sweat dripping down. Yes. Shin Junyang hugged his chest and huddled up, breathing heavily. He tensed up, his arm muscles bulging. I must be. He knelt down, one hand empty on the ground. Genius, all stats fixed at 0.2, if I could say it then. Shin Junyang thought he was running on the treadmill, sweating profusely and panting. The professor held the datasheet and said with concern, his basic ability did not increase compared to last year. Haesong turned around with a dark face, Junyang, to his father's room. Shin Junyang's whole body bent down and trembled. Haesong said indifferently, 0.2, all possibilities are fixed at 0.2. Haesong put his hand on his dark eyes and continued, forever. Shin Junyang was startled. You still don't know. If you continue to practice hard from now on. Haesong slammed the table interrupting him. The whole world will realize you're just an idiot. He continued speaking. I have heard of cases where ice resistance decreases after awakening a fire-related skill regardless of whether the skill is high level or not. It is useless. Everything is at 0.2 including mana. Shin Junyang tears fell. All this time, I have been pouring money into a bottomless jar, father. Haesong glanced at Shin Junyang and said, but luckily for you, no matter what you do, I won't have to worry about stopping you. Shin Junyang's hand clenched the corner of his shirt. If I hit you too hard, you'll die. Shin Junyang sat on the floor, holding a bottle of water in his hand, and said, after that day, Haesong erased all traces of me. All news and articles about me were taken down from the internet, including my skills, my hunter rank. Thanks to Haesong's support, stopping at Company B. Sangwoo sat opposite and listened to him continue. That's when I learned that I could get the elixir from the academy. The elixir appeared in his mind, an elixir that could remove all curses and heal all wounds. It became the purpose of my life. Shin Junyang stared at his hands, hiding his lack of mana. I hid the mana potion in my teeth and brought the potion in a water bottle to attend class. He drank the water coldly. I was so desperate. Shin Junyang let out a sigh. Of course, after all, I still lost to you. Sangwoo was a little surprised when he heard Shin Junyang say, Sangwoo, awakening could be a miracle for you. Shin Junyang bowed his head helplessly, but to me, it was the worst curse. Sangwoo frowned when he heard that and thought to himself, so the weakening medicine didn't work in the group match because of that. There was nothing left to weaken from the start. Sangwoo stood up, his hand in his pocket, asking, who knows about it? Shin Junyang also replied, just my father and brother, some captains, no one else. Sangwoo continued, if you intend to use the weights, why don't you use them at home? Don't you think you'll get caught? Shin Junyang argued back, I asked the principal to lock the door, but who would have thought someone would come in here this late at night? Besides, these things have all been used. Sangwoo was a little taken aback when Shin Junyang said that, there was a device with gravity magic that could support training based on the user's strength, but when I came today, it was broken. Sangwoo asked curiously, so, what was the basic ability you wrote when you registered? Shin Junyang also honestly answered, 40. Sangwoo was startled and asked back, 40. Sangwoo grabbed Shin Junyang's collar and shouted, how shameless, there is a limit to lying, raising it to 200 times, who would think that there would be an assessment of ability? Shin Junyang looked down sadly, what should I do? I have to go. Shin Junyang turned around and left without forgetting to remind, remember to keep what I said today a secret, even the principal won't know about this, please. Sangwoo scratched his head and cursed, damn it. Shin Junyang was walking alone in school, hands in his pockets. Suddenly he stopped and frowned. He remembered when Haesong was drunk with a glass of wine in his hand. The girl sitting next to him was massaging his shoulders. He wanted to have a team member in the promotion test. Shin Junyang stood straight in a corner. Do you know Sangwoo, the clone user? Haesong sat on the chair laughing. I saw him when he was F rank. I laughed at him when I saw him with Junmo. It was fun to see him struggling in F rank, but then I heard that Jung Sangwoo passed the B rank test without any help. Haesong's words made Shin Junyong dumbfounded. There were some people who didn't even dare to try to rank up without support. He continued, I laughed at the person who picked up the stone in front of me, and then that stone became a precious gem, but the gem I polished every day became nothing more than a stone. Back to reality, a hand reached out from behind Shin Junyong, while he was still muttering, even a pebble can roll. The mysterious person attacked Shin Junyong from behind, holding his arms and shoulders. Shin Junyong panicked, who are you? Shish, be quiet if you want to live. In another place, the night fell, the lights from the tall buildings flickered, a person's voice rang out, even when the skill leveled up, the power remained the same. The agent asked in disbelief, you don't like magic, do you? The only ability you're confident in is magic. The agent said apologetically, but I'm fine with the student review that took a while, why? Where is this? The agent raised his head and continued, I said that before I joined JM, but actually, there is a person who is very good at mana manipulation. The girl sitting on the chair laughed and said, but his training was extremely harsh. Guest, on the day of the basic ability assessment, the coach announced that there were a total of 5 assessment tools. The students were warming up for the test, Mr. Magyong explained, going through the evaluations of strength, speed, stamina, explosiveness, and endurance. Once one part was completed, they would move on to the next part immediately. Master Magyong said expressionlessly, then, let the evaluation begin. Someone steps forward when hearing the teacher say whoever is confident should go first. Shin Junyong's eyes darkened as he braced himself to step forward. Come to a flat wall, the support staff explains. Please hit it with all your might, yes. Doin and Soken were mocking him below, starting with Shin Junyong. Look at how skinny his arms are, let's see if you're right. Shin Junyong tensed his arms, the veins on his arms stood out, and a purple light was emitted from the surroundings. Sangwoo looked at it for a while, not knowing what to say. Then he sighed, finally he had to intervene. Junyong put all his strength into his arm, his eyes filled with murderous intent. His arm slammed straight into the wall, sending dust flying. Seeing Shin Junyong punch the wall, the staff standing next to him also had to stare in amazement. Doin and Soken were no better, gaping at Shin Junyong in surprise. An arm reached out from behind Shin Junyong as he walked and muttered, the broken clock was still right twice a day. The hidden person who attacked from behind grabbed Shin Junyong's shoulder and arm, startling him. He panicked and shouted, who are you? The man in black raised his index finger in front of his mouth and said, shut up, keep your mouth shut if you want to live. Shin Junyong turned around and saw that it was Sangwoo. Sangwoo, what are you doing here? Sangwoo continued, about the evaluation. Sangwoo, calm down, just answer me. He asked Shin Junyong, can you change other people's shapes with that chameleon skill of yours? Shin Junyong was quite surprised, what? Shin Junyong seemed to realize something. He was about to. Sangwoo turned around and said as he walked, yes, we can change the appearance of my clone into yours. That way, you can easily pass the aptitude test. You helped me before, so now. Sangwoo paused and continued, but don't get me wrong, I'm still pursuing the Junyong elixir, so I won't be helping you too much. Sangwoo turned around and took off his hat, smiling, but at least I can eliminate all the suspicions directed at him. Back to the test, Shin Junyong, disguised as Sangwoo's clone, stood in front of a wall with a dent in it. The power index on the display board appears. The staff was quite surprised. The power was exactly 40. The others were also whispering, was it possible to have such an accurate index? The wall was recovering. When it came to the reflex test, Shin Junyong, who was disguised as Sangwoo's clone, easily avoided the sticks. In the fitness test, he ran at full speed on the treadmill. Coming to the mana test, he placed his hand on the sphere causing it to emit blue light energy. Endurance test, the stick poked Shin Junyong's cheek causing him to cry out loud. The staff holding the index board gaped, all of them were 40. The evaluation test for Hunter Shin Junyong was complete. The other students were equally surprised. What, isn't he a long-range combat hunter? He's really tough, with 40 stats, he's already in A rank. Soken gritted his teeth in anger, what the hell, that's impossible. Doin stood beside him and sneered, I knew it, forget it, do your own test. The system panel appeared, the inertia effect had ended. Doin frowned and thought, Blade, what kind of effect is it that wears off so quickly? I had suspected it before but I guess I overreacted. Saw Magyong looking at the 2 transcripts without knowing what to say. Shin Junyong's 2 score sheets have very clear differences. The coach looked at it and thought, what the hell are these stats? Why are they all 40? They're even higher than mine, some stats have even dropped. Teacher Magyong looked at the scoreboard and commented, Hunter Shin Junyong's stats had increased by an average of 0.249 points. A bit disappointing but not bad at all. The real Shin Junyong was drinking water and glanced from afar. He frowned and thought, that idiot, I told him to just take a general number. Who would have thought he would put exactly 40 points into one stat? After all, is it human to be able to control such a stat? Looking around he thought, but Doin and Soken are talking to each other. He must be up to something. Stop it, can't you see the wall is broken? Shin Junyong slightly narrowed his eyes, his emotions unclear. He turned his back, leaned against the wall, and thanked Jung Sangwoo. Jung Sangwoo leaned close to Shin Junyoung and whispered, "It's over, so hurry up and leave, his stomach is probably full of drugs, okay?" Jung Sangwoo looked up and said outside, "I want to participate in the review too." Inside he thought, "By the way, there's something that's been on my mind for a while, I better check it out after this." The employee spoke absent-mindedly as Jung Sangwoo raised his fist and charged forward, punching this part of the wall as hard as he could. His eyes glowed red, the veins on his face stood out. He used all his strength to punch the wall, internal force radiating out. The wall gradually cracked and caved in, forcing passers-by to look back. It broke into smoke and dust and the ground shook. The wall broke into many pieces and collapsed. Behind the dust and smoke were two people staring ahead. Jung Sangwoo's eyes returned to normal as he spoke softly. His stats stopped increasing from absorbing that magic gem for a while now. Jung Sangwoo recalled that at that time, one of his clones was eating an orange gem. Jung Sangwoo looked at the system board in confusion. He immediately suggested, "Try eating as much as you can at once." The other clone obeyed and put the entire jade plate into his mouth. Jung Sangwoo looked back at the system board and frowned. The stats didn't increase. What's going on? I think this happened after number 7 was kidnapped and my stats increased explosively. He looked at the other guy and said dejectedly, "Other than turning the clone into a monster, the gems have no other uses, so how should I use this guy properly? I'd better go to Heritage one more time and see." In New York, USA, the main Heritage building stands tall in the dark night. Jung Sangwoo sat in the lab rubbing his hands in excitement. Oh my god, no way, he failed to copy the clone skill again, what a pity. Arya Burchell came over and asked, "Are you sure that's a pity?" Jung Sangwoo opened his mouth and laughed, "Of course, well, this is an extremely complicated skill." Arya Burchell laughed, "But we were able to use the clone skill on a part of the device. It's still a pity that it doesn't work on living things." Jung Sangwoo was surprised. "What? How did you do that?" "That's even more surprising. I also hope my clones have a piece of cloth to cover themselves every time they're summoned." Arya Burchell said seriously, "Creating a skill that surpasses the power of the original is impossible. The ability to copy equipment is a special effect of the clone skill. If he still can't use it, that means." Arya Burchell's words surprised Jung Sangwoo quite a bit. That skill of his could still be perfectly evolved. Suddenly she asked, "There are some people who want to meet you, do you mind?" He was confused. "What, me?" As soon as Arya Burchell finished speaking, the door to the laboratory opened. Raven and Dubert came in to introduce themselves. "So you're the owner of that clone?" "I'm Dubert, and this is Raven." Jung Sangwoo walked over and bowed slightly, shaking Dubert's hand. "I was able to make progress on what I wanted to do for a long time, all thanks to your skills. I've been looking forward to meeting you. I'm glad I was able to help you, even though I couldn't copy any items." Arya Burchell smiled and introduced, "Mr. Dubert here is the one who makes items for Heritage Company. The cloak we gave you last time was also one of his works." Jung Sangwoo smiled back, thanking him very much for that. She mentioned the other one too, "And there's this Mr. Raven, I'm sure you know him too." Hearing that, Jung Sangwoo stiffened and stammered, "Yes." Arya Burchell was surprised. "You know." Lord Raven immediately became majestic and sparkling at her words. "This is the world's strongest swordsman, an S-Class sword hunter." Jung Sangwoo was very surprised. "An S-rank hunter? As far as I know, there are no S-rank hunters in Korea, so this is how I met my first S-rank hunter." Jung Sangwoo scratched his head shyly. "I'm really sorry, I really don't know much about the hunter world." Raven turned around angrily. "Don't bother, I'm not the strongest swordsman or any of that bullshit anyway. See, I'm not even that famous." Arya Burchell explained further, "Mr. Raven rescued number 7, the Tron company was behind it, he destroyed that lab too." Jung Sangwoo said in a normal manner, "There's something I want to ask." He asked, "Do you remember exactly what experiment they did there? I'm a little curious about what happened to number 7. Raven replied, "Of course, I remember it very clearly." He spread his hands to demonstrate what he was saying. There were a lot of machines there, large pipes were installed everywhere. The operating machines were all shiny and there were also a lot of robots there. There were a lot of large test tubes like cages. It seemed like they were testing something. After hearing Raven's story, everyone was very surprised. He asked again, "Did my answer help you?" Raven stroked his chin speculatively, "And I'm pretty sure their electricity bill will." Before he could finish, Burchell interrupted, "Let me explain, we tested a few things after we rescued him." There was some uncertainty in her words. Sangwoo was stunned with doubt. Burchell lowered his eyes and said, "So he knew that, yes, he was right. The crystal jade was a medicine for humans, but it had the side effect of turning the user into a monster. It was an unfinished product, but because his clone was not a real human, that caused it to completely absorb the crystal jade. And based on observing the process, I think they figured out the exact mechanism of the crystal jade." Sangwoo was a bit suspicious. "The medicine used on my clone was a complete medicine without side effects, so that's why my stats increased while my clone didn't turn into a monster." Burchell chuckled lightly. This was just a hypothesis. The stats that he could forcefully increase by unnatural means had reached their limits. I think that was why the crystal gems no longer had any effect on his stats. That meant. She paused here for a moment and then continued, "You have to practice on your own from now on." Sangwoo rubbed his temples. "So now I have to get physical and maybe use the monster's absorption skill?" She asked again, "Is there anything else you want to ask?" Sangwoo thought for a moment, well, I don't know if she knows, but it doesn't hurt to ask. He finally asked, making Bershail's eyes widen in surprise, do you know what harvest day is? As soon as he finished speaking, all three of them looked at Sangwoo with strange eyes. Being stared at, Sangwoo felt a little embarrassed. What's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Suddenly Dubert pressed the switch he was holding in his hand. A huge explosion came from Sangwoo's body. Electricity was emitted around Sangwoo's bracelet. He frowned, his bracelet was turned off. Raven raised her sword and her face darkened. Don't worry, the translation mode is still active. The sword was shown and his eyes darkened, but he should choose his words carefully. Sangwoo frowned, his eyes filled with wariness. He held out his hands with a cold face. Okay, then I'll change my question. Are you also on the same side as the academy? The atmosphere was quite heavy at this moment, as if the two were about to fight. Arya Berchel and Dubert were shocked to see this. Arya Berchel closed her eyes and shouted, stop, both of you, stop. Arya Berchel advised, you too, Sangwoo, stop, we are not your enemies. Sangwoo glanced at her, I don't think you can convince me right away, you guys started it. Arya Berchel waved her hand away, Raven, put your sword away, I don't think he really knows. She tried to explain, Sangwoo's help was essential to our plan, everyone knew that. Hearing that, Raven put his sword away. Sangwoo also drew in the black air. Arya Berchel breathed a sigh of relief. She continued, I will tell you what the harvest day is, but there is one thing you should know before we begin. Sangwoo was curious, what is it? Arya Berchel raised her hand to touch her ear, her hair showing a red streak. The world was bigger than he thought. Her words shocked Sangwoo so much that his pupils dilated. We're not actually from Earth. All three of us looked towards him. We were outsiders from a place far away. Arya Berchel began to tell, our original planet was Tyburn, a peaceful place with many species living together in harmony. The scene of the planet Tyburn appears to be a place filled with magic and nature, the Urencia Empire, a peaceful and beautiful planet. The giant monster emerged, she continued, until the Cranid invasion. The people continued to use powerful weapons to drive away the monster. The Urencia Empire fought back, however, the threat of monsters that killed every living thing in their path was something we could not resist. There were many black vortexes in the sky. Hundreds of other little monsters came out of those black holes, they had portal skills. Arya Berchel continued, the number of monsters was so endless that no matter what we did, all the areas were being invaded one by one. As the soldiers fell, a man stepped forward, a man appeared before Urencia's hopeless situation. He is Lieber Zinstein, a scientist from Earth. Arya Berchel paused for a moment and continued, surprising Sangwoo, who was also the creator of the system. Sangwoo wondered, wait, is the system actually someone's invention? She replied, yeah, we were surprised at first too. Arya Berchel shared, I told you before, right, about how difficult it is to learn a skill. Just by focusing on the magical aspect for at least 10 years, the citizens of our planet hardly have a single witch who is always ready to fight. But Lieber was different, she said, he learned magic at an incredible speed and became the Archmage of Urencia in 5 years. Lieber sat in front of a desk covered with papers, he then focused on researching ways to learn magic faster to increase the number of people who could fight. So that everyone, even those without knowledge or understanding of complex formulas and poor mana, can protect the empire. The erected red sphere was placed neatly on the pedestal, that is how the skill and system spheres were created. She recounted in a monotone voice, the plan was a success, even though the system was still incomplete, it still supported basic attack skills and people began to register and learn magic through skill orbs. Everyone joined forces to destroy the monster, the system became more and more perfect, people could use more and more high-level magic, and everyone began to have hope that peace would come to Tyburn after Cranid was driven away. Bloodshot eyes gradually appeared, then the long battle continued until the system was completed and Lieber initiated the massacre. Berchel was puzzled, until now, I still don't understand why the citizens were massacred. Even the descendants of the Sword Clan and the Dragon race could not stop him, he continued to massacre and massacre and massacre. She finally concluded, and that was why Urencia collapsed within a week, it was Harvest Day. Sangwoo was amazed, an entire empire was destroyed by just one person. Berchel covered his mouth, his voice trembling, I still can't forget that scene. She turned to Raven and asked, is there anything else we can explain? I don't see Lieber very often, he replied, well, there are some things missing, but the narrative is correct. Raven added, the only survivors who escaped were the three of us, according to the date in this world, it was 1995, you know what happened 5 years later, right? Sangwoo was startled, and in 2000 there was a disaster. He realized, and the system is also on Earth? Raven's face darkened, yes, the system is taking root here, soon, the harvest day will happen on Earth. Elsewhere, Haeyeon gasped for breath. She fell down, I couldn't. The cat-eared girl smiled slightly, oh hello, she looks tired. Haeyeon fell down, she put her hands on her hips and raised her fingers, stand up, we still have a long way to go. Back to a week ago, behind Haeyeon appeared a pool of energy, here, this is the cat-eared girl's energy, this is the initial size of the foxball skill I used. She tilted her hand back slightly, I threw it here. She threw the ball at the target, smoke and dust flying everywhere. She pointed behind her, thinking, similar to her monoball right, Mana only has form but no damage. Leveling up only increases the size, right? If it keeps going like that, even if she sets it to level 100, it will still be the same. She said, making Haeyeon choke. She used it exactly like the system told her to do, right? The cat-eared girl raised a finger to the energy ball that appeared. She had to control and compress her mana. Her skills were that of a mana master, right? Her face darkened and her eyes lit up. The system was just a tool. In a disaster, people could still make good use of their skills even without it. The ball shot out and pierced the wall. She glanced at Haeyeon. The one using this skill was her. She held up the tombstone and said, "It must be at least this big." She continued to explain that her skill level wasn't that high, so it would contain less mana. Therefore she needed to compress it so that it was smaller than mine. This was essential to gain destructive power. Haeyeon shakily lifted herself up. "I know, but I've been doing this for a week. I have an evaluation today." Suddenly the cat-eared girl asked, "So when will she be able to do it?" The plaques were floating in the air. She would skip today because of the evaluation, and since tomorrow was the weekend, she would rest. Was that what she intended? She put her hands in her pockets and looked cold. "I wouldn't be too surprised if he had become an A-rank hunter by now. Don't you think you're being too greedy?" Haeyeon clenched her hands into shaking fists. The cat-eared girl licked her lips. "Come to think of it, we had caught a few assassins with Hunter Jung Sangwoo before and he was quite good, very charming." She continued, making Haeyeon furious. "Even I wanted to target him." Haeyeon with an angry face said, "Add more beer, don't bring it all out." The cat-eared girl ran off happily. Well, she was still young, love was beautiful. Back on the other side, Burchell asked in surprise, "So the academy was talking about the harvest day? So that's why you were talking about the academy just now?" "Yes," Sangwoo continued. "This so-called master is brainwashing a lot of people to carry this out." Burchell was confused. "What should we do? I think we have to stop this," Raven and Dubert also suggested. "We can't act alone. We will become the target of the system immediately. We can use other people. We can conduct a public discussion." "Wait," Sangwoo suddenly became serious. "We can't directly attack the academy. My sister is infected with the ghost virus. I need a miracle drug." Burchell was quite shocked. "A ghost virus?" Dubert immediately spoke up. So he was going to let this continue with the students in the academy? He had said that they were being brainwashed. Sangwoo lowered his eyes slightly. "I could leave him alone, as long as it was for the elixir." His words made them even more embarrassed. Suddenly Raven spoke up. "In other words, as long as we get the elixir for you, you can help us, right?" "What?" He smiled. "I will solve that elixir problem if you become my apprentice." Sangwoo was surprised. "What? Disciple?" Burchell was equally surprised. "Raven." Raven smirked. "Yes, the type of disciple that would do whatever I told him to, but obviously it was all to become stronger." Sangwoo was still a bit wary. "But didn't he just try to kill me? I thought you were on the system's side just now. I'm sorry." He continued to ask, "What do you think of the offer? It's not too bad, right? After all, you said you would do anything to get the elixir, right? If we can solve that problem, we can stop the end of the world together. We're on the same side now." He chuckled lightly. "Besides, after fighting your clone once before, I had this thought, you can become even stronger." Finally he asked one last time, "What do you mean?" Thinking of his sister still lying in the hospital bed, he immediately agreed, "Okay." His hands clenched into fists and trembled. "I didn't need to think about anything." Sangwoo's eyes were firm as he said, "If you can get me the elixir, I can be your dog." "No, not a dog, a disciple." The scene before his eyes was of tall buildings collapsing into a desolate mess. Trevor Ron opened his mouth wide and gasped for breath. The escort pressed the receiver to announce, "He is on the run, don't let him escape, subdue him and take him back." Ron cursed with a terrible expression on his face. "Damn it, that damn fake sword seeker. He pretended to let me escape but in fact he had already called the FBI. Damn it, I had already given him the valuable information he needed. What more could he want?" He raised his hand and asked the bracelet, "Elisa, how many people are surrounding us now?" The robot voice said, 10, no, maybe 5, I don't know, maybe 20 people. Damn, the identification bracelet is broken. Elisa's circuit is broken too. An agent turned to the red-haired girl and said, "That building is over. If he resists, you have the right to kill him. Call the others here quickly." Hearing people talking, he panicked. "Damn it, they're here. Yeah, I think someone else has come here, or am I mistaken, do you know?" A group of people approached the building. His voice became helpless, just like that. Ron collapsed, unable to get ahead in the end. Suddenly his foot hit some small rocks nearby. His eyes lit up as if he had figured something out. The group of agents below were shocked. "Damn it, what is this?" A giant piece of igneous rock fell from above. What was that thing? The rock hit the ground creating a huge explosion, screaming. The people standing below were all burned by the fire. Only the girl was still alive. She was holding her left arm and breathing with difficulty. She tried to contact via walkie-talkie, "Help, we need help." Before she could finish her sentence, she was attacked from behind and the walkie-talkie fell out. A foot stepped next to the girl's body. He shouted, "Trevor, I heard you were here." Hearing someone call Ron was shocked. "What?" Haesung raised his hand and smiled. "I came to save this man. Don't be surprised anymore. Come out, my business partner." Elsewhere, in the gloomy space, a voice spoke. "We have sent Trevor's location to Haesung as you requested." The hidden person replied, "He must have arrived by now." The other person lamented, poor people, must sacrifice themselves for a greater cause. The hidden person wearing a mask asked, aren't you going to ask anything? Why did I order you to give Traver's location to Haesong? And why did the FBI agents have to die? The other guy closed his eyes and calmly replied, I'm not curious about those things, I'm just following Sir Oracle's orders. Then, pausing for a moment, he continued, now I ask permission to go to the next location. The hidden person also just reminded, be careful, the catacomb is a dragon's lair and a tiger's den. Back at Sangwoo's side, Lord Raven was teaching him about swords. Now, first, we'll learn about the different sword forms and then start with some basic attacks. First is basic sword speed, and there should be some mana control as well, but let's learn it properly next time. He began to instruct, first, loosening his arms. Sangwoo asked, confused, wait, what about the elixir? Sangwoo continued, I definitely said I would become your disciple after I got the elixir. Raven hesitated, elixir. I'll go get it for you later, but wouldn't it be better to have experience first to level up faster when you get the elixir? Sangwoo held up his hands and sighed, that's not how the deal was made, he must have come from another planet, no one on Earth would do that. Raven heard that and smiled awkwardly, hey, I'm an S rank hunter, even if you bring a bag full of money, you still might not have the chance to learn swordsmanship with me. He jerked his thumb towards me and said, I'm a clone player, dude, Heritage invested 12.8 billion won to learn clones like me, but they still can't learn them. Sangwoo just pointed at him and said, but since the end of the world is not far away, I will not completely ignore your offer, so I want a fair deal, where you will have a disciple but not me until you give me the elixir. Sangwoo closed his eyes and spoke, and the person more perfect than anyone else to be his disciple, the person who would do whatever he said. He raised his hand and pointed at the seventh clone that was eating the meat, this one was the one who would learn swordsmanship from you for me. After that Sangwoo happily ran off leaving Raven standing there frozen like a statue. Number 7, good luck and listen to him. I have class at the academy so I'll go first. He sighed helplessly, well, it's enough to have someone to teach, okay, disciple, let's start with the stance. Clone number 7 yelled, making Raven jump, I am not your disciple. In Raven's mind, he would happily learn swordsmanship with his disciple, my disciple, why don't we learn this today? Yes, master. Eating and chatting together, it's delicious, what is this? It's ramen, master, I bought it for you to try. He even thought about the prospect of parting, I have nothing more to teach you, you can go down the mountain now, but master, I still have much to learn. Back to reality, Raven said with a dark face, first is the speed sword, I'm starting to teach so pay attention, okay. In the classroom, Mr. Hee-Sok was carrying a box full of balls, now, today is the day you have been waiting for, we will be learning a new skill soon, now, I will give you the freezing skill balls, we will do the same as last time, the person in the front row will. The teacher handed the sphere to Sangwoo who was absent-mindedly thinking, so Raven, Arya and Dubert were not Earthlings but aliens, from a planet that was destroyed in the apocalypse. His image appeared in his mind, Zinstein, the system's creator. He absent-mindedly activated the orb, why would he do that, and for what purpose? The freezing skill had formed. The system's sound made Sangwoo realize something, wait, is there a chance that we can't use the system on the apocalypse? Teacher Hee-Sok held the ball and reminded him, Hunter, you should only use your skills in the practice room, the ball was taken away but the green light was still in Sangwoo's hand. I learned the most basic mana control when I learned meditation, so what's the core of it? Attribute conversion, I guess. A thought flashed through his mind, maybe he could use mana without the system, shoot icefire. Sangwoo cursed angrily, I'm angry, bastard, give me a fireball or else an ice ball. Suddenly the system appeared and stopped. Sangwoo looked at the system board blankly. It showed the text again, Jung Sangwoo went to the catacomb. Sangwoo was talking nonsense, damn, the world must be about to end, what the hell is going on now? He stared at the system screen that said answer me if you get the idea, where the hell is the catacomb? I don't know what this thing is but it knows my name. Sangwoo looked at the teacher speculatively, he must have done this, who else would have planted potatoes on this land? Mr. Hee-Sok continued to lecture calmly, we will practice like last time, but before that, I have to tell you something, up until now, you have only practiced in the practice room and just hung around there, but this time will be a little different. The teacher was excited, this time we will learn new skills by fighting monsters in the dungeon. This will be an international event and our academy has been assigned to go to the dungeon. Teacher Hee-Sok smiled and continued, catacomb, hearing that, Sangwoo frowned, the teacher continued to explain, a giant dungeon with many different areas and basements. There was a knock at the principal's office, the principal asked, who is it? Sangwoo put his hands in his pockets and kicked the door open, I'm back. Sangwoo grabbed Hak-Soo by the collar and growled, do you want to die? You set this up, right? Even if I wanted to pretend to respect you, I really can't do it anymore, what's going on? What's going on? He lowered his voice, what were you thinking? Practical training in the catacombs, now things are going your way, I don't know what you're talking about. They give each academy in the world a dungeon, and they will learn combat at random, it's not like you can change it just because you want to. Sangwoo released the principal with a rather surprised look, what? He asked the teacher again to confirm, so he wasn't the one who did that in my status window? Teacher Hak-Soo was confused, what, is there something there? Sangwoo panicked a little. Damn it, if it wasn't the academy. The system panel showed another message. I want to stop the apocalypse, please help me. He thought in shock, then who sent this to me? In the special training area, there was a beast girl with beast ears holding a mana meter. The girl whose mana was being measured, Heian, was trembling as she tried to reach out and spoke with difficulty. What do you think? The beast girl looked at the mana measurement result and smiled slightly, saying, very good, you passed. Hearing the result, Heian seemed to forget all her fatigue, her whole body filled with energy and said happily, great. After saying that, she rushed forward and hugged the beast girl tightly. Thank you, I have to try to maintain this size even if my skill level increases, understand? Heian was a little embarrassed at this because the beast girl said, remember to hold on tight, Mr. Sangwoo. Before leaving, she smiled and said goodbye, goodbye. After Heian left, the beast girl looked at the measurement board and smiled. Looking at the amount of mana being measured by the machine, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He didn't expect her to have so much mana hidden away. No matter how good they were, no one could stop this skill. In Sangwoo's bedroom at this moment, the quiet space suddenly echoed with a strange sound. Are you listening? At this moment he was sitting on the bed extremely helpless asking, who are you? A green screen flashed with white text. Conversation was restricted. I had to explain myself when I answered his question, but if I did, the system would detect me. The text continued to appear. I want to stop the apocalypse. That was all I could say. Those words surprised him, but he still replied, sorry, but I've heard about the apocalypse. It's rumored that it was arranged by the system and Lieber. How can I trust someone like you who is talking to me through the system? The system also quickly replied, first of all, I am blue, we are completely different. A meaningless answer but directly made the veins on his temples pop. He angrily said, are you kidding me? Look at this bastard. The system hurriedly explained, think about it, if I were on the system's side, why would I contact you? My mission is to tell the master about the people in heritage. Listening to the system's explanation wasn't unreasonable. He sat down to seriously consider its request and at this moment, a voice called Sangwoo from outside. There are also guests. The system heard this and immediately said goodbye with its tail between its legs. We will stop here for today. We will be captured. Go to the tomb and take the 7 clues. Only you can stop the apocalypse. Looking at the system quickly disappear, he sat there, resting his knees, becoming even more silent and speechless. He pondered, should he believe him? He only agreed to Heritage's offer for the elixir. There was nothing to lose anyway, but he didn't tell him what to do. Struggling with his thoughts only made his head spin. He couldn't fully trust others. What should he do? While he was thinking, the door opened. Seeing Heian as the person entering, he was extremely surprised and stammered, Heian, why are you here? Wait, where have you been? Hearing him ask her, she proudly turned up her nose and said, I just finished that special training. After saying that, Heian naturally walked towards him while he just helplessly complained. Heian sat on the bed next to him and said, why do you look so depressed? Are you worried about something? Hey, don't just sit on my bed, there's a chair over there. At this moment, the two parents outside were hiding behind the door, eavesdropping. They were whispering to each other, oh my, Deokchil's daughter is all grown up. Oh, maybe we should go shopping. Inside, the atmosphere was completely opposite. Heian saw that he was always deep in thought and asked, is there something you can't tell me? He said seriously, aren't you scared? You know that academy isn't normal, they even plan to send us abroad. Hearing him say that, Heian couldn't understand why he was so worried. She raised her hand to scratch her cheek and said, of course I don't trust that academy, I only trust you. Seeing him speechless, she also gave him a trusting look and a bright smile and said, I trust you 100%. He thought for a moment before saying to himself, it was true. In his mind he was thinking, that's right, I don't need to worry about people I can trust. Unlike him, Heian was very shy and hesitated for a long time before saying anything, so, if you're worried about anything, you can always rely on me. Just didn't expect to hear you say this, you can believe in yourself. Heian became stiff, while Sangwoo was extremely pleased. Just thinking about it, I'm so strong, honestly, no one is stupid enough to betray me. At this moment, a voice rang out in the room from somewhere else. Jung Sangwoo, Korean nationality, B rank, has been a hunter for a year, average stat is 70 stars. The one who spoke these words was a man with a triangular beard. Looking at the pile of documents he said bluntly, damn, I didn't know this kind of skill existed, I can't sit still and watch anymore. The red-haired girl suddenly appeared and spoke loudly, making him lean over and complain, what you said is right, sir, oh, forget it. Suddenly the whole room had the sound of lights rushing and making it chaotic. The extremely excited triangular bearded man said, look who's here, Jumper. The man who just appeared was Jumper. He was an S-rank hunter. As soon as he arrived, he immediately approached the triangular bearded man with a strong aura and talked to him. It was said that he had just caused trouble. The bearded man frowned provocatively after hearing that. So you came here to kill me? Jumper naturally didn't like his answer. He responded irritably, depending on how he answered. Then both of them seemed to prepare for battle. The triangular bearded man emitted green aura and Jumper clenched his fists. After a while, the bearded man finally collected his aura and waved his hand, then said, Tisk, back to the crypt, huh? A few seconds later, he continued, I don't know anything, I didn't even know that place was designated as a dungeon hunting area. At this moment, Jumper asked without showing any emotion, did he really not know anything? The red-haired girl beside him suddenly kicked the man lying on the ground. The triangular bearded man said, the dungeon training sessions in this academy are only mid-level events, so I usually leave it to someone else. The person you need is here, just do whatever you want to him. Jumper continued to remain silent while the triangular bearded man continued speaking. I understand what you are worried about, but don't look at me like that. The 7 clues will still be safe, the maze creator is still there. At this time in the giant basement of the dungeon maze, there are strange creatures, they are using weapons to fight with the hunters. They fought each other making incomprehensible roars and screams. The other hunters continued to attack, and in no time the creatures were defeated. The armored men then reminded everyone to quickly retreat. At this time, each student was noisily saying, it's a real monster, this is my first hunting trip. And in this group of students were Sangwoo and Hyeon. After seeing that creature, Hyeon asked him a bit worriedly and he answered very patiently. What is that monster? It's so scary, it must be a golem or something. More importantly, I think there will be more of them. Next to them was the YOLO Guild's manager, Sona, who was leading the formation. Now, don't leave the line, it's dangerous. Sangwoo greeted someone he knew and the person responded, oh, is it Sona? Hello Sangwoo. He turned to ask her and she answered enthusiastically, what do you do here? You work part-time, the academy is too big and the professors are too few. No matter what, they can't meet the demand for hunters above C rank. Of course she asked him, he answered every single one of her questions, what about you? I am a student of the academy, please protect us. Hearing that indifferent answer, Sona burst into teasing laughter, what? You? Are you an academy student? Who's protecting who? You don't even need a guide. He ignored her still smiling and asked, what are we doing here? Only the hired hunters are hunting, the students are just standing around watching. After a pause, Sona continued, the academy asked us to do that, I don't know why, maybe it's because there are too many students, they just said to protect the academy students by not letting them fight the monsters. After a while she returned to her duty and said goodbye to him, well, anyway, if I were you I would pretend I didn't see you sneaking out of line and joining the fight, help me protect the other students too, he even teased me, do I get a share of the pay? After Sona left, Haeyeon turned to Sangwoo and asked, Sangwoo reluctantly answered her, who is she? You two seem to be very close, don't be like that, you're scaring me, she's the manager of the YOLO group, she helped me before. Hearing that, Haeyeon reacted even more violently, and he was a bit confused, huh? Then what about the Miho sister you mentioned before? She's here too, right? Huh? Which sister? When Haeyeon spoke now, she must be the one who specially trained her. In another place in the dungeon labyrinth, this place is a dark and gloomy space with eerie sounds. In the center there is a figure sitting surrounded by skulls scattered on the ground. The man's hands were holding the small sphere as he watched, his mouth kept muttering, too many people, so many people. The place where he sat was surrounded by magic formations as he talked nonsense to himself. No, they were getting closer, too many, if it continued like this then. The woman talking to herself was the owner of the crypt, the creator of the labyrinth. He was stuttering, I'm in danger. The scene changes back to Sangwoo's group, this time he senses something coming. He quickly went to hug Haeyeon making her shy, Haeyeon, come here. The others reacted slower but also noticed the incident because the ground started shaking violently. What? Was there an earthquake? Everyone, get in line. The earth shook, causing chaos and everyone was stunned. After checking the situation, Sona quickly ordered everyone to stay away from the sinkhole, quickly retreat, run quickly, quickly. Everyone ran away from the center of the shaking. Haeyeon, who was being held on his shoulder, was also very scared but was comforted by Sangwoo, don't worry, it's okay, huh? He was surprised when the system displayed the words, come down here, he quickly replied, got it. He gave Haeyeon a copy of himself which made her extremely curious and he said one sentence before jumping off the cliff, you go first. Looking at Sangwoo slowly disappearing from sight into the deep pit, Haeyeon screamed helplessly, brother. And you are now fighting wits and courage with the system, it's best if there are no traps, or else I will kill you. The system happily replied, alright, you're still serious about telling it, one more thing, you better tell me who you are after this. After a period of free fall, he now felt a bit comfortable and couldn't help but feel relieved, he wasn't falling anymore, as if the world was supporting him even if he let go of his body. He kept his eyes closed and felt everything in his head, the soft and warm feeling, embracing. But just one sentence from the system broke the feeling because when he opened his eyes, he saw a familiar board, and the surrounding area was dark with skulls and rocks, you are buried, I am buried. Sangwoo was being squeezed and was thinking about how to get out of here, the hell, pushing these things away wasn't that hard, but my entire surroundings were blocked and I couldn't see anything so I didn't know which way to go. At this time, someone outside broke the dirt and rocks to make a way for him while he was busy thinking of a way, should he just pick a random direction and, oh. Sangwoo's eyes widened in surprise when he heard the blue gases that had been pushed back and beside it were the sounds of talking, terrain scanning skills and living creatures. But most of the time he was surprised because he met an acquaintance, seeing him still bewildered, Shin Junyoung couldn't help but boast, there it is, such a skill. Sangwoo quickly greeted after calming down, Shin Junyoung, you came here too? Of course, I have no intention of giving up on Erical, so why did you fall all the way down here? Shin Junyong just finished drinking water and honestly answered, do you think I can run like those people? Of course I was too tired after running and fell down here, so why are you so proud? Thinking about what just happened, Shin Junyong said, what just happened was no joke, I think a lot of other students fell here too. Sangwoo listened but thought to himself, the destruction must have happened in other places too. Sangwoo then sat up and turned to talk to Shin Junyong. It seemed like there were a lot of passages here. Shin Junyong replied, the crypt was a type of dungeon that was made like a large maze, and we had fallen into the deepest parts of it, so. Pausing for a moment, Shin Junyong continued his broken sentence with his gaze, no one knew where this place led. Sangwoo sat on the pile of rocks and dirt, thinking for a long time. Then Sangwoo asked Shin Junyong again, your teleportation skill, is the cooldown over? Shin Junyong continued his conversation with him, right, are you planning to leave here too? No, you go out by yourself. Hearing this answer was enough to make Shin Junyong extremely angry, and he started scolding, what, we don't know what kind of monster will appear in a place like this, even if it's you. Before he could finish his sentence, a giant strange creature appeared from behind and approached Shin Junyong. They reacted very quickly and stomped on the monsters. At this time, all around was only smoke and dust and the incessant roars of monsters. After dealing with them, Sangwoo said, I'll go deeper now, I don't have time to protect the people around me anymore, well, if you're confident, you can follow me. Shin Junyong also decided to open the teleportation door. Shin Junyong heard that there are also rules, if so then I will return. Sangwoo heard Shin Junyong's decision and said, good choice. But just as he saw Shin Junyong enter the teleportation gate and was about to turn around and leave, he saw him stick his head out with a puzzled look on his face. He rushed forward and grabbed his shirt, questioning, what are you doing? Shin Junyong was equally bewildered, what the hell happened? Pausing for a few seconds, he said, I think there is some kind of magic that blocks the coordinates throughout this entire labyrinth. Sangwoo didn't understand and asked again, what? What is that? Shin Junyong slowly explained, it was used as a protective measure, it made entering or exiting this place using teleportation magic impossible. Sangwoo saw the monster suddenly move and went to check it out, then he and Shin Junyong continued talking. But my space gate is fine, Shin Junyong replied, your skill has a fixed coordinate, it's different from teleportation, unless we have a scroll with the coordinates attached to it. Hearing that, Sangwoo gritted his teeth and said, Tisk, then you wasted a teleportation, I won't be able to protect you, so move yourself. The two of them started to choose a path to follow despite the monster's screams. Sangwoo took the lead, just follow me. Shin Junyong shouted from behind, don't run. At this time, there was a group that was also lost. Everyone was very worried and the two Ions were also trembling and crying. They had given up. What should I do now? Mom. At this moment, Goguryeon's deputy manager, who was also a C-rank hunter, Bae Cholman, stepped forward to comfort them. Now then, everyone, calm down and don't get separated from each other. After saying that, Cholman turned to talk to his subordinates. Still can't contact the upper floors, the subordinates replied, I still can't see any signal. Seeing the students lamenting made him a little worried, what should we do? I don't know how to fight, damn it, everyone has basic fighting skills. However, they were inexperienced in dealing with dungeons and were very scared. It would be difficult to find help if monsters appeared. Back to Sangwoo and Shin Junyong's group, they were fighting the giant monsters. Sangwoo's clone couldn't help but say, you damn bastards, why do you keep reviving? Sangwoo defeated the group of monsters and had to make a comment, they were defeated extremely easily on the upper floors, but here it was different. Shin Junyong continued, it seems like the monsters here are much stronger than the ones on the upper floors, the skeleton soldiers have also revived a few times. At this moment, Cholman came in from outside, when he saw them, he was very surprised. Sangwoo saw him and asked, are you one of the instructors of the academy? Yes, I am the vice manager of the Goguryeon Guild, Cholman, are you Hunter Jung Sangwoo and Hunter Shin Junyong? Hearing their answers, the group of students started to talk in a commotion, Jung Sangwoo and Shin Junyong, they are the two strongest students in the academy, we are saved, but I don't feel comfortable seeing Hunter Jung Sangwoo, and Sangwoo also answered your question, yes. Seeing the monsters move again, Sangwoo said, damn it, they're reviving again, everyone, smash them to pieces, that way they won't be able to respawn again. The clones quickly rushed to process, okay. But the group of students saw this and couldn't keep calm, we're all done for, so you really intend to take revenge? Even the deputy manager Cholman was a little pale but still asked Sangwoo about his doubts, excuse me, but did you see anyone else besides us? Sangwoo calmly replied, you guys are the first. Cholman continued to chat, we can't contact the above, he asked doubtfully, contact, Cholman had no choice but to say, there is a way to contact the above. At this moment, Hyeon stood next to the clone, crying and calling him, brother. She shouted and asked, are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? Are you crazy? Why did you jump down voluntarily? He tried to comfort her and said, calm down. The deputy manager interrupted and said, oh, there is a way, just to let you know, but you can't get into this thing, no one but me can. He didn't pay any attention to this and turned to chat with Hyeon, how are things up there? Hyeon replied, they are checking to see how many people have fallen. Sangwoo said, we have a group of students from the academy, the instructor is Hunter Cholman, if we can investigate the floor we fell from, We might be able to find out where we are now. Looking at the students who were resting, she replied, "Ah, okay, I will inform them right away." Suddenly, a scream startled Chulman. "Oh, there's a spider, hic, what's going on?" Sangwoo was still talking. "Oh, and the teleportation skill won't work. People say it's some kind of interference skill or something. I need as many clones as I can, so if the telepathy works, I'll summon number 6 here, so try to stay safe. Haeyeon, listen to me, you too, be careful." Shin Junyoung heard that and immediately said to Sangwoo, "What is your plan? Are you going to stay here until they rescue you?" He quickly said, "No, I will leave a clone behind and go somewhere else." When he turned to ask the assistant manager, he was surprised. "Yes, Mr. Chulman, I will take it." At this moment, the entire hallway became slippery and empty. He and Shin Junyoung were both stunned. Shin Junyoung reacted violently. "What the hell? Where did everyone go?" Sangwoo was full of doubts in his mind, but he didn't hear any movement or fighting. Sangwoo said to Shin Junyoung, "Hey, use that thing, the thing you used to find me." Shin Junyoung shouted, "Damn it, you told me to hold the goods." Even though he said that, he still used mana to check the result, making him silent. There is no one else but us within a 3 kilometers radius of this place. Hearing his friend's answer, Sangwoo and his clone were both shocked. "You say, is that possible? I thought teleportation skills didn't work in this place." Shin Junyoung replied, "Of course, those people didn't even have teleportation skills." Sangwoo couldn't keep calm, then how the hell? But before they could do anything, the ground shook and a group of monsters came to surround them. Shin Junyoung was very annoyed with this group of people scolding him. Damn it. Unlike Sangwoo, who was calmer, he responded to his words. This place was like a maze, not just the structure of a dungeon. The space of the whole place kept changing. In another space, there was a man swinging his sword in succession. Even the posture of drawing the sword is majestic, worthy of an S-class hunter. He turned to talk to Sangwoo. If he completed the shape of the sword, the space that the sword passes through will be in the form of a vacuum. It is a sword technique that can cut through the opponent by controlling the wind, and it was created like that. Its name is Stormbringer. When he turned around and saw him sitting and eating, he asked, "Are you listening?" He answered with an innocent face, "Yes." He stuck his sword into the ground and tried to calm his mind before saying, I am an S rank, a top-notch teacher, let me train your sword form first." While he was wiping his mouth, he continued explaining, "If he could feel a little vibration in the air, it would be a success. The shape of the sword is really difficult, don't use your whole arm, but your wrist." Sangwoo noticed that Mr. Raven was busy talking and quickly pulled out his sword, then he used a standard stance to slash, which surprised Mr. Raven. He was speechless for a long time. "What? No? How? How?" The scene that appeared was a scene of fierce fighting, monsters and skeletons scattered everywhere. Shin Junyoung happily said, "Good." After each victory, the skeletons kept calling out rice. Since they can revive, Sangwoo gritted his teeth and cursed, "Die for me." The system then appeared again saying, "This will continue like this until you defeat this space manipulator," making Sangwoo even angrier. "Damn it, what should I do now?" Looking at the monsters that kept approaching, he asked again, "Is a bastard manipulating this space?" Number 7 replied immediately, "Yes, I have to see his face." Hearing that made him even more determined. "I will definitely not let him act on his own." In another space, the surrounding rocks are constantly moving while the person moves and talks to himself. "Jung Sangwoo, there must be some reason the new master let me take action. You have very outstanding fighting ability." He picked up the skull and said, "Hoo. Seeing him reminded me of you, Marcel." He paused for a few seconds and then said, "You have a lot of zombies around you, so you are very strong." Looking at the pile of skulls covering the ground, he continued, "But of course, normal humans always have limits." Back at Sangwoo's place, he was still using his moves to fight the monsters, thinking in his head, will this never end? He stomped on the skull while thinking, monsters keep respawning, so it takes 2 to 3 times more effort to defeat them. When I thought I had defeated them, they were actually just moving to another space. Thinking of this, Sangwoo became even more annoyed. He grumbled, "These bastards keep rising up, is there no way around it?" Shin Junyoung replied, "I heard that if you have divine power, you can burn them." But thinking about that he said, "Let's start from now, let's pray." Sangwoo was angry and gritted his teeth threatening, "I will kill you first and turn you into them." But when he held the sword, thinking about the word Junyoung just mentioned gave him an idea, burn it. He turned to his 2 clones, "Can you create a fireball and distract them?" One clone replied with a yes, "Okay." He held the sword seriously and said, "Then, move the fireball and bring it to my sword." The clone that just answered thought silently for a moment and then replied, "Okay." The scene changed as someone called him, "Trainee, what are you planning?" He looked at Mr. Raven and said, "I'm just copying you." He raised his crippled hand to speak, but my wrist made him exclaim, "Oh my god." Sangwoo saw his reaction and quickly said, "It will be back to normal in 3 minutes. He told him seriously, "I see you have high regeneration power." He also thought, at this level, his sword speed is as fast as level 3 wind. Clenching his fists in his head, he truly admired his talent. He knew he was quick-witted, but he didn't expect his body control to be so great. What a formidable brat. If I guide him well, he might be able to become a sword that pierces Lieber. Looking at his back, one could tell that he had thought carefully before making his decision. "We will begin the new lesson, So please sit down, my student, and now I will go over the structure of mana. Turn to another space, where there are blazing flames and hearty laughter. It was Sangwoo holding the sword containing the flames created by the clone, he proudly said, right? This is it, the holy sword, it was just combined with the fireball. Junyang, who was beside him, quickly objected, wouldn't that be like throwing fireballs at them? Sangwoo asked in confusion, can't you see the divine power flowing through this weapon? He said and swung his sword towards the target while shouting, look at this. Then slashed a sword at a nearby monster causing it to scream in pain. The others were also surrounded by fire, they could only scream. Shin Junyang could only stare blankly at this scene. Looking at the battlefield filled with smoke, dust, and debris, Sangwoo turned back to show off his achievements. Now, they contained holy spirits. Junyang replied casually, yes, let's assume that's the case. Sangwoo heard that and started to grumble at him, not knowing that someone was approaching them. Too much talking, why don't you go and use your divine power yourself? Shin Junyang also said helplessly, I have that kind of skill, but I can only maintain it for 0.5 seconds, is that okay? At this moment, the man spoke up to attract attention and said, are you all hunters? It was a skinny man, very strange looking, with 2 long scars. You asked, yes, who are you? He replied, oh, can you show me the way out of here? I was visiting this place and got lost. Sangwoo heard the reason and glanced at him, asking again, visit, the sentence expressed his thoughts, did he think I would believe that? Still, he pointed in a direction and said, I don't know the way out, but there is a way to the street in that direction. The man happily replied, oh, that's enough, thank you. As he was about to ask him the real reason, he bent down, but who are you? There's no way you're here to visit, he said, oops, your shoelaces are loose, let me tie them again. His face was now downcast despite him speaking, hey, he held him tight and told him, don't be still. Meanwhile, he spoke very strangely, making him clearly curious, don't mind the path you are taking, just keep moving forward, you will do well. Shin Junyang and his clone didn't understand either. He added that the day the truth would be revealed was not far away. Junyang wanted to ask what the hell he was babbling about. Only then did he stand up, put his hands on his knees, and say, oh, thank you for showing me the way, it was sincere. Then he walked away slowly, muttering to himself, everything was happening just like the prophecy. Sangwoo had no idea what he was saying and complained, what the hell, at the same time, a voice came out, brother, the telepathic connection is complete. It was from Haeyeon's side calling to measure the magic circle, the rescue team will be there, just tell him your location. He heard and replied, the awakened person will come, but there is also a bit of trouble. Because right now the ground beside him is changing, he said again, this space has been distorted, so the people inside will move randomly without being able to determine, now it's moving again. On Haeyeon's side, the sounds were still coming, he didn't know where the Cholman hunter group had gone. Sona quickly said, then when the rescue team arrives, there might not be anyone there anymore. The man in armor replied to her, tell the rescue team to hurry before they are transported to another space again. Haeyeon was shocked when she heard him say that, what if the position changes? We can't be sure, but he replied, we can do it. She was very surprised and asked back, what? You're having a good time here, everyone here has a good memory, so get ready, from now on, we'll draw a map of this place together. The scene changed again, there was a sphere monitoring everywhere in the maze, and a sound was heard from beside it. Were they being separated? As the owner of the tomb was setting up a formation, he started muttering again, right? If they couldn't stay in one place for long, what would they do? They were trying to find a way and figure out the structure of this place at all costs. Thinking of this, he shouted, but it was useless. They should know that determining direction in such a complex space was useless. It was really easy to deal with. Looking at the figure running through the sphere, he said happily, just wait a little longer, that's right, let's run, ho ho. As he adjusted the space stones he laughed even louder, ho ho, but what he saw made him stop laughing. He opened his eyes wide and mouth wide, speechless. Sangwoo's clone was now running around observing every place he went to and came to a conclusion, I've seen this terrain before, this is point 3. Then he added, we are 500 meters away from where the first incident happened, we were already there, now we should turn right at the intersection at the beginning of the road. The more he observed in many directions, the more certain he was, going from point B3, right, left, right was point A2. The enemy was about 640 meters away to the left of point A3, that was where the battle took place. Imagine the shape of the maze through the places to go. The intersection is where the Cholman hunters are, that is point C3, to the right is point D2, the starting point. He sat down on the ground and sketched the shape of the maze, moved forward 14 meters and turned 30 degrees to the left. Shin Junyang beside him didn't understand so he asked, what is it? He had to explain, I had the clones spread out and redraw the trajectory in the direction they went. As the clone looked at the paper he continued, no matter where they were teleported to, as long as they remembered exactly where they went, they would reach the meeting point at the convergence point, when they all met up. Looking at the paper drawn from the clones he said again, then we will create a map. Shin Junyang immediately asked, how do they remember the location and determine the direction? He calmly replied, I can. At this moment, the sound appeared from many different places, which surprised him quite a bit. I met Cholman's group and met another group of survivors from the academy, and this side was the same. Your voice is transmitted to Haeyeon's group, you guys can still hear right? She quickly replied, ah, yes, the rescue team is nearby. He also quickly replied, I will tell the location. The clone also said, I will explain starting from the north, where the master's accident happened. First, the closest place is. Thanks to that, when the groups gather in one place, everyone is happy. They helped each other get to safety. Haeyeon also rushed to Sona and hugged her tightly for a long time. And now you can also breathe a sigh of relief. Phew, being alive is good, right? Seeing this scene through the sphere, the maze controller let out a growl and kept on babbling nonsense. Sangwoo, how could you? The clone that helped Sangwoo collect the blueprints returned, and it seems the map structure is almost complete. Once all of it is put together, the upper-level maze takes the form of a giant circle. Sangwoo held the blueprint and said, the reason for the teleportation must be some kind of skill. Shin Junyoung beside him suggested, if it was a skill then there would be a range limit, then the person who created this maze. Speaking up to here, he touched the circle in the center. It should be in the center of this place. Hearing that, Sangwoo shouted, everyone, focus, let's find out who caused all this. I won't let it. Shin Junyoung interrupted. Wait, he gritted his teeth in anger while Junyoung said with a carefree face, you have to take me out first. Take me to where the rescue team is, where the owner of the tomb is rarely at peace right now. It took a long time for him to talk to himself. Sorry everyone, I couldn't save everyone. At this time, he was taking off his clothes and talking nonsense, but it's okay, he can still be saved, at least I will stop anyone who dares to come here. He took out a jar and looked at it, saying, perhaps, the owner had already predicted this. Holding the jar tightly in his hand, he happily said, here, with this I can return to the time when everyone was still happy. After a long silence he remembered the past, the sky suddenly opened a hole and monsters poured out, and everyone died. The image returned to the day he was young and witnessed the scene. The streets were filled with dead bodies. Suddenly a sound came from the radio. The people listening to the announcement should pay attention. One of them said, the radio is working. The announcer must still be alive somewhere. The radio was still ringing. A strange phenomenon was happening simultaneously in many places around the world. Monsters were pouring out from an unknown gate and people were being attacked. We called this phenomenon a great disaster and declared a national emergency. The group was shocked by the amount of news and the radio kept saying, if you encounter a strange phenomenon, leave immediately. If you encounter a creature you have never seen before, do not try to provoke it, hide, collect food and water and wait for rescue. And when I turned around I saw the skeleton starting to move. The radio was still going. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. A man wearing glasses, when seeing the skeleton gradually coming together, said, hey, look, the skeleton is holding a weapon, causing everyone to run away. Someone shouted, the skeleton is moving, everyone run. The girl saw the skeleton coming towards her and tripped, crying loudly, help me. When I thought I was about to die, nothing happened. One of the group said, it disappeared. At this time, she used magic and came over to say, don't go out. He continued, I can protect everyone here. Just now was Labyrinthos, transforming space in a certain location. All space-related skills including teleportation would not be able to be used to travel between the warp space and the outside, but Labyrinthos would still function. He repeated, it was dangerous outside. Back in the present, he stood in the magic circle and said, I was just trying to keep everyone safe and sound. A stream of air surrounded him and spread out. He muttered to himself, why can't everyone understand? He raised his head and shouted loudly in tears, why doesn't anyone understand me? The scene cuts back to your group now above the rescue team saying, we are the rescue team, use the rope to climb up. Shin Junyoung looked at the rope being lowered and hesitated for a long time, but after climbing the rope, Sangwoo couldn't stand it anymore and got very frustrated so he ordered number 2 to carry him up. Number 2 received the order and replied, okay, but before he could do anything, the space became distorted again. Everyone was filled with question marks. Sangwoo quickly asked, what is it? He quickly reacted and slashed at the curtain with his sword but it was useless. Damn it, it was blocked. I must have used my spatial skills. Shin Junyoung hurriedly asked again, so you leave me behind? Sangwoo touched the deforming barrier with his hand, also surprised. Huh, the space skill is also blocked. I thought I could use it. The two of them were isolated and silently looked at the curtain. Shin Junyoung accepted his fate. This was probably the only way. We had to go to the central area as planned at first. Well, I was planning on staying to help you anyway, let's go. And Haeyeon's group was also panicking when they got separated. I couldn't see inside, not even the rope, and Haeyeon worriedly called out, brother. At this moment, a familiar sound rang out, making Haeyeon very surprised and avoided. The person created a small sphere and threw it directly at the target, creating an explosion. The space became filled with smoke and dust. The person who came was a beast girl. Seeing that the explosion still had no effect, she scratched her head in doubt. Damn, is it still not enough? Haeyeon saw her and immediately called her sister, and she responded enthusiastically, Haeyeon, thank God I'm fine, hello clone. After greeting, the beast girl asked about the situation. She heard that Sangwoo was still trapped inside. Haeyeon replied, yes, he was with Shin Junyoung. Seeing that, she also said, I don't think he will be in danger, but if we leave it like this, who knows what will happen. We have to deal with the person who is activating this space restricting skill right away. The beast girl said and pointed at the barrier. but as you can see, I can't break the barrier. Heian asked anxiously, what should we do? I heard that the teleportation skill doesn't work either. She approached Heian and asked, what do you mean? Of course we have to test it with your skills, Heian answered hesitantly. You, the Beast Girl replied, show me the results of your training. On Sangwoo's side, he and his clones were fighting the skeleton. Sangwoo was the one leading. We were pushed further away. This was outside area A2. While hitting, shout, Tisk, let's head back to the center. Just as he was about to leave, the space changed and he shouted again, outside of area C1. He angrily punched the wall. Damn it, the dungeon layout changed too. His mind was in chaos. It seemed random before, but now he must be deliberately pushing us away from the center. He was about to turn back to command, when, a voice rang out. You, he replied, huh? Their group was using mana to transmit their voice. Heian tried to speak briefly. Please tell me the location of the guy controlling the space, I will attack him. Hearing Heian say that plan, Sangwoo quickly asked, huh? But the magic barrier is still there. Heian quickly replied, I've been trained, hurry up. Thinking about the current situation for a while, he gave an answer. Number 6, do you have the map in your head? Number 6 replied, yes. He held the map structure in his hand and started talking, calculating the distance and angle between where everyone was standing in the center so he could aim more accurately. The 6th clone on this side replied, understood. As for him, he began to adjust his mouth space and muttered, I know, my skills are not bad. As the images appeared, the rescued people were eating together. One person said, the maze creator, what a nickname, monsters can't enter here. Another person continued, he has always protected this place from monsters. There was another kid who was having fun and said, oh, mom, that's great. I actually teleported back when I tried to escape from here. The mom next to him reminded him, hey, stop playing around, sorry for asking. You created the maze. The kids kept trying to escape from here. Back to the present, he cried again, that's how I will protect everyone. Back in the past, someone came back from outside. Everyone, I'm back, the others continued. Congratulations on your safe return. How is it outside? The man with the sawtooth hair said, don't go out anymore. People with superpowers are popping up like mushrooms. Be careful of them. He replied, thanks Marcel, but it's okay. I can escape right away if something happens. The more I think, the more tears flow. No one is allowed in here, no one. The past intertwined. A little girl happily said, Uncle created the maze, can you get us some flowers? The older sister shyly added, if you happen to see it, thank you. Then the middle-aged man said, we all owe you our lives. Turning towards them, there were red threads of air appearing that number 6 was pointing at, guiding Heian to aim in that direction. He used his hand as a support to remind and support Heian, stop breathing and concentrate, a little higher, slowly, slowly. Heian used all her strength when she heard those two words. At this moment, she followed the direction of number 6 a hand and aimed. The laser beams shot straight towards the shelf where the monster or skeleton was, piercing through the wall or space barrier. He stabbed straight through the body from behind. Bloody hands with a surprised face with 2 rows of tears. The image that flashed through her mind was of her standing still, surrounded by corpses stabbed by swords. She thought, I was wrong again. Looking at everything before him made him unable to believe it. Why, people? Turning to the bloodstained man, he called out loudly, Weigel. Looking back at the pair of sisters who were also pierced by the long gun, Louis and Chloe. His heart was in turmoil when he saw his best friend stabbed by 4 swords, blood was everywhere. He helplessly called out, Marcel. The massacre brought back memories of reaching out to save people. The voices of the rescued people were all in my head. The Maze Maker, what a wonderful name, as you said, monsters can't come here, to protect this place from thieves and monsters. Ah, mother, it's great, I keep going back inside even when I try to get out. He walked past the corpses with empty, lifeless eyes. He saw the space blocks shifting freely, the appearance of the dungeon had changed. Holding the wreath in his hand, he remembered the past. Kid, I don't think we can get a real flower, we should be satisfied with the fake flowers here. The sound still echoed in his head, that was enough, thank you, Labyrinth Creator. He held the wreath on his head, the skeletons were also gradually approaching him. A decision came to him, he sat still and waited for them to deal with him. Everyone, wait for me. He raised his head, laughing and crying, I will see you soon. The rumble passed. Back to Sangwoo's group, he was still anxious. Did he succeed? He turned to speak to number 6. I think the spatial disturbance has stopped. Number 6 stood up and replied, that's right. But at a signal Sangwoo took the lead and ran away. His clone carried Shin Junyang. When he heard Sangwoo say, fine, then let's head to the center right away, Shin Junyang just screamed in vain. Somewhere a man said, Master, wouldn't it be dangerous if the 7 deadly sins were released? I think we should call for backup. The bearded man replied with his hands on his hips, I gave them some trouble so we have nothing to worry about. It won't be easy for them to reach the center of the maze. The more the bearded man spoke, the more pleased he became, and the labyrinth maker's skills were perfect to keep others from getting close. However, he suffered a mental injury related to the seal of the 7 deadly sins. He paused for a moment and said, he had great talent but this was what killed him. I heard that he got that skill right when the disaster started and he used it to protect the civilians. He maintained spatial disturbances to push monsters away and kept people inside for many years. The triangular bearded man seemed lost in thought. It took him a long time to continue speaking, but why did that talent become poison to him? There are several layers of protective devices surrounding the 7 deadly sins. Do you know which one is the most common among them? Hearing him say that, one of the two men quickly replied, I don't know, sorry. Remembering the giant creatures that attack humans, he said, monsters. Most of the time, the 7 deadly sins are sealed together with powerful monsters. Looking at the mana on his fingertips made him even more evil, but the spatial disturbance that had been going on for many years had finally removed the first seal of the 7 deadly sins in the dungeon. One could see the unbelievable helplessness of seeing all the acquaintances being brutally killed. The triangular bearded man said indifferently, but fortunately, there is still a second seal, so the monsters released are only C or B rank, but that's when most of the civilians living there will die. The two young men turned pale as they listened to him recount the dungeon they could not escape from. The triangular bearded man continued to recount. Afterwards, the labyrinth creator's skill had failed, the direction of the spatial disturbance became random, so even if they wanted to open the seal to escape from there, they wouldn't be able to do so. Do you understand? There's nothing to worry about here. The tall, crew-cut guy still hesitated to ask despite hearing his analysis, but, I heard that the people who went there had very strong skills. What if they could reach the center and meet the one who created the chaos of the labyrinth? The space returned to where the tomb owner was. Now he held the bloody star in his hand and stared at it for a long time without saying anything. He sat huddled in a corner, his back to the pile of skulls. The one who broke the silence was Sangwoo. He destroyed the wall and the pile of skulls charged angrily. I finally arrived, the center of the maze. Sangwoo, Junyang and 2 clones appeared from behind him, only to see him drop the star shape to the ground. Sangwoo continued, luckily he survived, they found him. Seeing him stand up, he added, you're the one who messed up the maze, right? He silently glanced at him before replying, I should have died at that time. A very confusing sentence made Sangwoo ask again, what? Junyang also continued, what do you mean? He coughed up blood but still tried to speak, because of my skill, the sealed monster was released, that is when everyone died, they couldn't escape the labyrinth. He added, they are rolling around at your feet, can you be careful with them? Making him scream, what? So these aren't monster skulls? He ignored Sangwoo's fuss and continued to indulge in his sorrowful emotions. The biggest regret of my life was that the spatial disturbance was activated without me realizing it. Remembering that day, when he was holding the wreath on his head, the skeletons were also gradually approaching him. A decision came to him, he sat still and waited for them to deal with him. Everyone, wait for me. He raised his head, smiling and crying, we will see each other soon. Only now his whole body was covered in green air and his bones seemed motionless. Turning back he looked at the wreath in front. After everyone was dead, I don't know if it was because of my survival instinct, but I was scared. Even after my skill failed, the monsters kept teleporting away from me, they couldn't touch me. Blood and tears flowed out. He still tried to speak, but now, I have decided, I want to go back to that day. The more the ground shook, the more determined he became, for my skills had returned. I was certain that I had the means to reverse the structure of this place back to how it was at that moment. Once again, I would open the seal of this place. Use all your strength to lift the space and shout. Even now, I can still hear my master telling me to stop, but it's okay, everyone, please accept me once more. Sangwoo yelled in anger, are you crazy? He gritted his teeth in anger and was about to charge with his fire sword. You want to release more monsters? Do you really think I'll let you do that? The system appeared again. Wait, Jung Sangwoo. He just didn't expect that his legs wouldn't move and an eye mark would appear. He thought, what is this? My shoes are tied up. Thinking of the strange man he had just met, he immediately cursed in his head, damn it. You don't give up so quickly, but it won't work, I have high reflexes. He acted quickly. He would put his weight forward and jump a little with the foot that was stepping on the thick wire and smoothly tilt the other leg too. Kneel on one knee but land safely, roll forward, when you're done, say, clack. He kept watching his every move and said, ah, thanks for stepping on that tile, I was almost out of strength, that was the last point to open the seal. His entire body became motionless and he hurriedly asked him, what? A large amount of mana quickly poured down around him. When he could see, he was only seen standing on a floating rock. And the space was filled with red. A giant monster appeared beside him. He could feel it, this thing was dangerous, more dangerous than any monster he had faced so far. As for him, who was already exhausted and whose level this monster couldn't determine, he said, yes, this is what should have happened. Then he turned back and picked up something. I will reward you for helping me open the seal. Catch it, it is the 7 deadly sins. When he heard him say that, he didn't have time and he reacted by throwing things and added, it's time for me to say goodbye. He paused for a few seconds and then continued to finish his unfinished sentence, thank you. Now, the giant monster raised his hand and flicked his head. It flew away after he finished speaking. Give me back the salvation I couldn't have 20 years ago. Just a flick of the wrist created a wave that overwhelmed everything. Even Shin Junyang and his clone bowed their heads to avoid it. The system immediately appeared and said, kill the 7 deadly sins immediately. Sangwoo was using all his strength to hold the piece of object that the other guy gave him. A blinding white aura surrounded everything. When he opened his eyes it was already a different space. He wondered to himself, where am I? I must be in the cellar. From behind the golden sound, finally I met you. He turned around and asked, Who are you? He replied calmly, yeah, you don't know me? Oh, right, the system screen appeared, we were just talking through the system window. Hearing that, he angrily said, you are the one who told me to go into the dungeon. He paused for a second and continued, who the hell are you? He calmly replied, you already know my name, right? With a bored face sitting on the chair, he continued, nice to meet you, I am Zinstein. He used his finger to adjust the system screen as he said, I am known as the creator of the system. Jung Sangwoo froze on the spot. What? Lieber continued, well, first of all, I want to say that you don't have to worry too much about the people who died in the dungeon labyrinth. The time you spent in there was only a split second outside. Lieber said, but if you take in too much information, your brain will melt. Hearing this, Sangwoo jumped. He shouted, are you crazy? Let me out quickly. But before leaving, Sangwoo wanted to understand something, so he asked, by the way, Zinstein. He was the one who started the apocalypse in Tyburn. Lieber raised his glasses in response. I want to say something about that. The reason for the apocalypse was indeed created by our system. Sangwoo was very upset when he heard that. He put his hands on his hips, interrupted Lieber, and he had the nerve to ask if I wanted to stop that. Lieber replied, calm down, I have never lied to you. My purpose in starting the apocalypse on Earth. And once again, Sangwoo interrupted Lieber, even if the one who destroyed the entire Tyburn was him. Lieber bowed his head and said awkwardly, I couldn't control it, follow me, all my research is here, you will learn more. Sangwoo opened the system screen and seriously asked Lieber, why did you create something as dangerous as this system? Was it because you wanted to save Tyburn from the war with Cranid? Lieber's lifeless eyes only looked down when he heard Sangwoo's question. He hesitated for a long while, then continued to explain, why did we create the system? Lieber clenched his fists. It's because someone very important to me has been infected with the ghost virus. Lieber lifted his glasses and looked at him. I think that when the system is completed, I can also know how to cure that disease. Sangwoo squeezed his hand and asked, what happened to that person? Lieber's face darkened. She was in a place where she didn't need to suffer anymore, at least I believed so. Jung Sangwoo, I believe you understand this feeling better than anyone else. Sangwoo remained silent and did not reply. The main theme has continued. Lieber explains, the system has lost control, first Tyburn, now Earth, it has become a monster that devours everything. Lieber took out the stone. The 7 deadly sins we need are to stop the system, collect all 7 deadly sins, that is the way to stop the apocalypse. Sangwoo was puzzled, why do we have to do that? Lieber continued, because having the 7 deadly sins in hand was the only way to escape the system's control. He continued, the 7 deadly sins also bring 2 effects to the owner. The first is to prevent the system from affecting the owner's body. I mentioned that talking about this in too much detail might lead to us being discovered, right? Sangwoo realized, so the 7 deadly sins allowed him to talk to me. Lieber nodded, that's right, the second effect that appears when the 7 deadly sins have been completely absorbed, that is. Lieber continued, superpowers, the 7 deadly sins are fragments of an entity that once existed on Earth. When you absorb them, you will inherit their powers. The description sounded terrible and it made Sangwoo suspicious. Why does it sound worse than what? Lieber replied, a dark aura emanating from the stone, yes, they will try to take over your body, as their name suggests, the ending will not be good. Lieber handed the stone to Sangwoo and advised him to be strong and not let them defeat him. Sangwoo took it and affirmed, don't worry, my mind is stable, but there were still questions. Sangwoo asked curiously. But what do you mean by the system not affecting the body? Sangwoo frowned, probably because he was exhausted. Lieber also noticed, oh, it seems like he's reached the limit of his strength. He continued, let's talk about it after you defeat the monster. Sangwoo held his head and complained, that thing I saw just now? How could I kill it? The space became empty. Lieber reminded and begged Sangwoo with a blank gaze, don't worry, the fragments of the 7 deadly sins will help you. Jung Sangwoo, please, stop the system. Sangwoo listened tensely. The pitch-black cubes gradually filled the empty space. And then, Sangwoo returned to the real world, the space he fought in every day. The ground was cracking, because the conversation just now had consumed a lot of Sangwoo's energy. It took him a while to come to his senses. Luckily Junyang, who was beside him, shouted and woke him up. Hey, Jung Sangwoo, are you okay? We have to go quickly. Sangwoo was confused and wanted to speak but was stopped by Junyang. Now was not the time to question him. Junyang said loudly, this thing is not an ordinary monster. Looked up at the monster gathering magic power. That very ball is collapsing the surrounding houses. And from it countless rays spread out like spider legs pinning straight to the ground. Huge pieces of debris were falling down due to the Earth's gravity. Some people were screaming in fear, ah, help, help. Some people were lying still on the ground. Some people were shocked when they saw their loved ones being crushed to death. Father, run away quickly. All the painful screams echoed. Sangwoo gritted his teeth and endured. This bastard recalled his memories. Sangwoo turned to Junyang and asked, you can use the enhancement for 0.5 seconds, right? He was surprised, that's true, but what are you going to do? The sky was red as if dyed with blood. The spider legs continued to stab straight down. Sangwoo told Junyang, hide and use it as soon as I call you. He agreed, okay. Sangwoo tightly grasped the stone named the 7 deadly sins. He ordered his clones, all of you quickly go save people except number 1, avoid fighting if possible. Everyone said in unison, okay. The monster stood among the ruins, searching for a hostile target. Sangwoo looked at the stone in front of him nervously. Will the 7 deadly sins help? Then he crushed the stone. Well then let's do it. The stone broke, a jet black sphere with purple light appeared. Sangwoo was amazed, there was still a ball inside, and it was wrapping around him. In his mind, Sangwoo saw clearly, a yellow eye, like a monster was staring at him. Who are you? Finally, a new body. Sangwoo was covered in blood, he was confused. Sangwoo screamed in pain. The ball or 7 deadly sins were possessing Sangwoo's body. Junyoung hid in a corner and watched. What was that? From his perspective, Sangwoo's entire body had changed color, and the veins on his face were clearly visible. Junyoung was surprised. What happened to him? Wasn't he supposed to transform when he screamed? At the same time, in Sangwoo's subconscious, a demon was holding the 7 deadly sins orb, with yellow eyes growing on it. I will give you anything you want in exchange for your body. Give it to me, quickly. The haunting call gradually corrupted Sangwoo. He laughed eerily. This was nothing compared to the madness of the cursed sword. With this power of his, the demon that was invading him screamed, give me your body. Sangwoo opened his mouth and slowly put the ball in. Maybe he should just relax and let things happen. But then Sangwoo paused. He remembered the last part of his conversation with Lieber. Be strong, don't let them get to you, don't worry, I'm fine. Sangwoo smiled to himself and thought, I almost failed. You stopped again? It's useless to stand there and resist. Sangwoo gritted his teeth, trying to keep his composure. Shut up. The image of the past appeared. Jiwoo was lying motionless on the hospital bed and Jung Sangwoo was the one who was helplessly sobbing. He clenched the ball and raised it high, shouting, I've made too many mistakes because of complacency, then I'll feed it to my clone, with my own strength. Number 1 is speechless. While no one was in pain, Sangwoo stood aside and breathed a sigh of relief. I realized I should know my limits, now let someone else do it. Junyoung's eyes widened in shock. Cruel, so cruel, he cursed. Bastard, you are a bastard. Sangwoo was startled. Probably because of doing evil. Shut up, let someone with a stable mind handle that thing. And the noise attracted the monster, it crouched down. Sangwoo frowned. He saw us, because you were so loud. Junyoung could only apologize. The monster created a ball, from the ball it turned into a mace. The monster was also slowly approaching them. Sangwoo shivered. Damn, you're done. Number 1, you're the one with the best spirit. Status of number 1 has changed. Unable to identify, system notification, identifying, error, unable to determine. A bunch of errors, identifying, error, unable to determine. The power of the 7 deadly sins erupted, while the monster was charging. Number 1 throws the hammer. Sangwoo cursed, damn it, boom, a huge explosion, the smoke slowly cleared. No, 1 blocked the monster's attack. Sangwoo was happy. No, 1 did not respond to him. Number 1 grinned. When was the last time I breathed outside air? Number 1 asked Sangwoo, are you challenging me? Sangwoo exclaimed in shock, Number 1. Number 1 was silent, suddenly laughed out loud. What is number 1? Then gave him a rainbow punch, made him fly into the wall. Luckily Sangwoo solidified in time. Damn it. He remembered what Lieber had said. The 7 deadly sins were fragments of a legendary entity that had existed on Earth long ago. They would try to take over his body, and from the name he knew, it wouldn't end well. Looking at no one's condition, Sangwoo judged, perhaps no one's body has been taken over? Number 1 walked over and faced Sangwoo. Stand up, challenger. He thought nervously, he was too strong. His stats had already surpassed his clones, the barrier had collapsed instantly, and perhaps his stats were even higher than his. This battle has just begun, Number 1 said in charge. It grinned and Sangwoo gritted his teeth. Damn, this wasn't the right time, I had another monster to kill. What should I do? Sangwoo thought of something. Number 1 sneered, you're too slow. Sangwoo bent down, this time he even knelt down to beg. His beak was chattering. You could tell he wasn't being honest. Oh my god, legendary entity, you misunderstood. The 7 deadly sins were silent. You just woke up and are still feeling confused, right? I think you have mistaken the challenger, so let me tell you. Sangwoo pointed at the monster. It was him, he was the challenger. The monster stood still and took the bullet. Number 1 asked him with murderous intent, really? Sangwoo said loudly, he was the one who threw the spear in the first place. He was really being led like a dog. Even Junyoung, who was hiding in a corner, had to admit, I know I'm hiding so I have no right to say these words, but he's really dirty. As for Sangwoo, he was still using his slippery beak to lead Number 1 into his arms. Ah, he's looking this way, please do something. Number 1 smiled slyly. Oh, fine. Number 1 activated his power and walked towards the monster. I won't be picky about who the challenger is. Let me play with you for a bit. Sangwoo worried. I managed to trick him but... Sangwoo looked at the big guy and asked himself if he could fight him. Number 1 was now approaching the monster. A punch, punching its chest. Sangwoo was delighted. But that move only lasted for a few seconds. Number 1 was immediately countered with a punch and sent flying. Sangwoo was disappointed. So weak. From the corner, Number 1 counterattacked. Lasers shot out from the monster's eyes and pierced through the monster's body. Number 1 went berserk. It seemed that just 1 fragment was not enough. But seeing that the monster had taken quite a beating, Number 1 was pleased. No, maybe this was perfect. Come on, a new battle is about to begin. People ran in all directions to avoid the large walls. Haeyeon was motionless. Is it my fault? She turned to Sona and instructed her, Sona, evacuate all the students. If you need to, you can ask the guild to send a transport ship. Sona agreed. Okay, but Haeyeon didn't. She was panicking. What about you? Her sister, Miho, responded very coolly. Her role as a guide was over, so she had to go back to being a hunter. Haeyeon cried out helplessly, sis. Number 1 launches a series of damaging blows on the monster's body at breakneck speed. Sangwoo was surprised. I take back what I said. How can he fight at that speed? I can't even see the attack clearly. Even so, dodging the blow was impossible. The 7 deadly sins complained. This body is too weak, there is nothing left but regeneration. But in return, after a few hits, he got used to the enemy's fighting style. Number 1 smiled wickedly. I have already adapted to your magic. Boom, this time it was his face that got hit. Miho just arrived and asked, Sangwoo, are you okay? I will fight with you. Where are the other clones? Did number 1 eat too many gems again? Hearing the voice, Sangwoo turned back. Captain Miho. Only now did he notice what Miho said earlier. Wait, while he was taking over No. 1's body, if she joined him, he would. He quickly stopped her. No, she had to leave here as quickly as possible. Miho is confused. Huh? But it seems Sangwoo couldn't stop the speed of No. 1 of the 7 deadly sins. I always welcome new challengers. Blood stains on the wall. It looks like Miho is in danger. Elsewhere, under the light, a bottle of wine was lifted and tipped to the mouth. Boom, a loud noise. It seemed that after trying to sip the few drops left in the bottle, it was still not enough. The man slammed the table in anger. Dragon's Blessing, a wine that is unaffected by all types of immunity effects. The man threw the wine bottle and broke it. The receptionist could only silently dodge. He grumbled, damn it, that's the strongest thing already. Get me something else. The others at the next table started talking too. We picked the wrong place. How did we know Scully would be here? He shouted, I don't feel drunk at all. A young man spoke up. Are you still looking for alcohol that can make you drunk? The man was surprised. The young man continued, alcohol that can make an S-rank hunter drunk is rare, especially you, Fuok Lan. S-rank hunter, blessed, John Scully. Scully turned her head questioningly, Jumper. Why are you here? Jumper replied, I'm gathering all the S-rank hunters. Soon, he continued, no, perhaps, an S-class monster has already appeared, we need to go rescue the people. Scully laughed, even if you go alone, it won't be a problem, you're not like other S-rankers. Jumper continued, if I go alone, it will take too much time, there will be more victims. Scully still refused. Why should we care? He asked the other S-rank hunters to go with him. You don't want the kind of wine that will get you drunk. Scully paused. Jumper smiled wickedly and continued, I can get some for you. Scully darkly probed, are you sure? Back to Sangwoo, blood was splattered on the floor. Miho was scared. It seemed that the bloodstain that appeared was number 1 pinching his own hand to stop himself before attacking Miho. The 7 deadly sins roared, you bastard, it's useless to resist, quickly listen to my orders. Number 1 pain, 2 hands resist. After a while, No. 1 brushed his hair back. It seemed like No. 1 had resisted the devil's control. It was true to the steel spirit that Sangwoo believed in. I am No. 1, and except for my master, no one can order me around. Sangwoo asked again to be sure, are you really number 1? While Captain Miho was still confused, Sangwoo, what's going on here? Sangwoo replied shyly, it's a long story. Number 1 covered his face and tried to hold back. From the other half of his face, a voice echoed, alright, your loyalty is impressive, I'll let you win this time. You're lucky. With that said, he laughed loudly and disappeared. Accordingly, number 1 also returns to normal state. Sangwoo breathed a sigh of relief. He was awake. Miho asked curiously, was he brainwashed? There was a movement from behind the monster, making all 3 alert. Sangwoo asked No. 1, I have something to ask, can you stop it? With that purple energy like just now, No. 1 shyly pulled his mask over and looked blank. What? The monster moved again. Sangwoo tensed, can't you? Number 1's innocent eyes replied, yes. Sangwoo shouted, the space was also gradually collapsing, so run away. Elsewhere, the S-rank hunter Raven, nicknamed the Seeker, passed on a skill to Sangwoo's clone No. 7. The Stormman Demon Cave is a secret technique passed down through the generations of our sect. If you learn it, your swordsmanship and magic will multiply many times over. He sighed, I usually don't teach him, you know, but seeing how well you study, I will make an exception to teach you. Number 7 sat still and listened. Concentrate as much internal energy as possible into the Dantian. Gather all the internal energy in your body so that you can automatically control it. The internal energy in your body begins to vibrate towards the respiratory center. He continued to instruct after number 7 completed the first step. Now we will control your internal energy to follow a new circulation path. If you carelessly move your internal energy in the wrong direction, it can harm your body, so be careful. Now then. Raven pressed hard on Sangwoo's back. Here we go. Back to Miho's group, Sangwoo and number 1, all 3 were running as fast as they could. Since number 1 was also running, Miho was curious and asked, clone? You were so excited just now, what's going on? Number 1 was silent. Sangwoo wondered, can you really not shoot lasers from your eyes anymore? Number 1 stammered, yes. At the same time, Sangwoo's other clones also returned. He asked, "How's the rescue of the injured going?" The clones also replied, "Whatever humans could do, they had almost finished." After receiving the rescue report, Sangwoo ordered all the clones to gather. "Then everyone gather here, together, they will deal with this bastard." The clones rushed towards the monster. Miho also joined the fight. "I will attract his attention." She used Fox Charm to create a seductive image to attract the monster's attention. In the monster's mind appeared a skeleton of a woman in a wedding dress dancing. When a girl comes in, he forgets about life. Taking that opportunity, a clone of Sangwoo rushed over and stabbed him in the head. But because of carelessness, he accidentally approached the magic ball instead of its head. The scene seemed to freeze. The clone covered its face and dodged, while the monster's hand suddenly stopped. This also brought back some memories for Sangwoo. "That's right, freeze, I have that skill. I forgot right after learning it." So when he remembered, he immediately ordered his clones not to let him move. So a mass of ice covered several parts of the monster. Sangwoo also rushed forward aggressively. "I also helped out, using the freezing skill." But Sangwoo's ice turned into a few pieces of ice, leaving him bewildered. "What's going on?" Miho worriedly called out, "Sangwoo-san," without her realizing that the monster had already gotten closer. And with one punch, Miho flew into the rubble. Not stopping there, the monster seemed to want to kill Miho. It approached and reached down. Luckily Sangwoo used acceleration. He stopped in time. Sangwoo gritted his teeth tiredly. "President Miho, are you okay?" Miho groaned in pain, and in a stalemate with a monster accidentally activates a skill. The demon cave has been activated, the Stormman demon cave. The clones through the wind frames were moving extremely fast and attacking the monsters in succession. Sangwoo was absent-minded. He didn't know what to do, so he asked the clone beside him, "What skill is that?" "What is a demon cave? Teach me." Towards number 7, Raven asked, "How do you feel?" He put his hands up to feel. The internal energy continued to condense and explode within my body, but it still circulated around my heart. Raven gasped, "He's sharp. Using swordsmanship along with magic when unleashing a move is the basic combination of my swordsmanship." Raven continued, "But it was difficult to use the sword with his current body, so," but before he could finish, the clone interrupted, "Sorry, it's an emergency." Then he waved his hand. "I'm leaving." Sangwoo's clone left, leaving Raven bewildered, but he went from standing to kneeling and started crying out loud, This is not me. What kind of person have I become?" The flash of light from the space portal. Familiar footsteps, swordsman. Raven was not surprised. "You are? Long time no see. I am not in a good mood. Can you get to the point?" Continuous airborne shockwaves deal massive damage to monsters. Sangwoo was surprised, so strong, but his bones were already damaged. At the same time, Sangwoo's clone, No. 7, slowly walked out from the gate. "Sorry, I lost control of my mana for a moment and couldn't get here in time." Sangwoo didn't blame him, just wondered, "No. 7, are you done training?" Only then did Sangwoo understand, so, perhaps the demon cave just now was. Number 7 nodded, his eyes focused, his body bent down, his hand pulled out the sword. "Yes, the sword seeker taught me this sword technique." Looking at the other clone's physical condition, one could guess what number 7 would say, but it wouldn't last long. The holes in his body combined with the cracks would be difficult to heal quickly. On the contrary, the monster recovered completely. Sangwoo grimaced, "Damn, he's barely recovering, we have to kill him in one go." So he asked No. 7 how to use this new skill. "How can you use the magic cave?" No. 7 replied, "Combining sword attacks with explosive magic, that's the basic theory." Sangwoo nodded, "All right." They both rushed forward. Sangwoo said loudly, "Let's see if our arm breaks first or yours, you bastard." The circles around both of their hearts spun faster. Sangwoo desperately launched a slash. He gritted his teeth, he missed, but the blade had already passed through his body. The monster also counterattacked. It had already created magic spheres. Just didn't have time to use it. A clone rushed over and hit his right cheek. Number 7 moves behind the sword pin and left shoulder. Sangwoo also swooped down from the sky. "If we keep attacking, we won't give him time to recover." The monster roared savagely. Sangwoo stopped. It had created a sphere with an eye. Sangwoo thought, "I have to use the space gate to block this attack immediately." However, he still couldn't react in time and Sangwoo and his clones were pierced through. The space portal opened. It was Raven. He caught Sangwoo. My face darkened. I didn't expect to see a member of my guild here. Along with Raven, John Scully and Dion appeared. This was more trouble than I thought. S-rank hunter Jorge Lucas, let's get him. Good idea. S-rank hunter John Scully, Char Dion. The monster is still casting magic. A voice is heard. Is that the monster? So it was Scully who had been looking at it for a while and then clicked her tongue. The undead type? Is that why you called me here? Jumper continued. It suits you so well, right? Seeing Scully sulking, Raven asked for help. Thank goodness, if possible. Could you heal this guy for me? Scully turned her head. He glanced. That won't be enough to kill him. Do you know him? Raven replied, I know. Scully finally agreed. Okay, no big deal. I'll heal the others too. Sangwoo's clones were also lying on the ground. Huh? Their faces looked exactly the same. He was confused. Meanwhile, Jumper opened the space gate again. I will also go save some people around here. Dion is watching. Thanks you too, the undead monster has evolved. Please help me take care of that monster. Jumper left, leaving Raven and Dion on the battlefield. Sangwoo slowly opened his eyes. Then he jumped up, bewildered, huh? The wound. Scully stood opposite, waiting for this moment to ask Sangwoo, what the hell are you guys? Twins or something? Anyway, I've healed all of you, so go hide. Sangwoo asked, who is it? Miho was worried beside him. Sangwoo Nim, are you okay? He didn't answer Miho's question and just stared at the man just now. Captain Miho, did he heal everyone? Miho smiled, that's right, we're saved, all of these people are S-rank hunters. Under the feet of the mutated undead were 3 figures. Raven turned, he was awake, just stay there and watch. Sangwoo was stunned. Raven closes the range on the undead. This is the path you will have to walk. He focused on both teaching and hitting seriously. It's a violent ghost but on a higher level, a tornado to be exact. The space gate opens continuously. Jumper was still searching for the victims, and was checking the surroundings. There were people who had been rescued. The damage was really minimal. He had discovered something strange. This was different, very different. The giant skeleton spirit had woken up earlier than usual. In fact, it had already transformed into its second form. The labyrinth creator's labyrinth didn't work, but the seal here broke so quickly. Why hasn't the city suffered any damage yet? Could it be? Remembering the image of the 3 Sangwoo, Jumper realized that they were strangely similar hunters. He clenched his fists. I've never seen his face before, but they saved people while fighting the giant white bone demon, stalling for time until it transformed into its second form, so there's a high chance that the 7 deadly sins have already fallen into their hands. Then Jumper fell into a state of madness. He smiled slyly. Well, I didn't predict all this interesting stuff anyway, let's just wait and see. The scale and scope of the ghost riot left Sangwoo in awe. This was the true power of Raven. Dion is a swordsman. All things swordsmanship are truly amazing. Swordsman, I would love to spar with him one day. Dion also charged forward, dragon teeth. The swords repeatedly stabbed in. However, after so many attacks, the undead was still unaffected. It counterattacked, black beams shooting straight down. Scully blocked, groaning as she blocked. Damn stubborn thing. He smiled and snapped his fingers. In a situation like this, blowing off its head was the best tactic. The light beam pierced straight through. The undead's head was severed, but only for a moment. An eye opened on its chest. The monster was regenerating its body structure. It screamed of destruction. The whole building was shaking. Jumper is back, he said from above. The thing that looks like an eye is its magic core. To kill it, you have to aim for that spot. Raven groaned. That core keeps moving. Dion suggested. Try pushing it to one side and then attacking. Scully looked sad, but I was trying to hit that eye. Sangwoo struggled to get up. I'll help too. Miho was surprised. Sangwoo, she advised, don't overdo it. Those 2 S-rank hunters will. He interrupted her. It could be taken down. Even if he just sat there, they would. But those people wouldn't solve the problems I'd be facing from now on. Sangwoo continued with a serious face. I have to become stronger. I will finish that monster. Miho was confused. Finish. Sangwoo turned his head. Shin Junyong, are you there? It's your turn now. Shin Junyong was startled when his name was called. Then Sangwoo turned to the clones. You guys know what to do, right? They all said in unison, yes. Sangwoo's thoughts were filled with sorrow. He had been holding back from going crazy until now, but now I really need to go berserk. He gripped the sword, then stabbed it into the ground. That clone's skills and his strong stats. I'll combine the two. He ordered his clones, smash everything and beat it to pieces, now. The undead began to attack. Scully protested, no way. Jumper bounces portals, Dion swings his sword and Raven draws his, ghosts riot, dragon rages. The undead was clamped, Sangwoo shouted, the core was fixed in place, he gritted his teeth, right now. Junyong complained, berserk and holy light, what kind of combination is that? Using holy light skill, buffing effect to increase power extremely strong to the selected target. Like the recreation between train and electricity creating a train, the 2 skills being used at the same time greatly increased Sangwoo's power. He charged. Miho hurried, I don't care anymore, if I get into trouble with those S-rank hunters, you'll stop them, okay? Hypnosis of the fox, you've attracted the opponent's attention with charm. This time the target is S-class hunters, but for some reason the illusion of old Raven is a female rabbit. Sangwoo smiled wickedly. He asked the clones following him, should I aim for that core? Focus all. Sangwoo gathered his strength. The inhale thrust pierced the undead's core. Mass notification system, activating monster devouring skill, absorbing monster essence, absorbing giant skeleton stats. Red eyes glowing in the dark. Finally, there was a glimmer of hope. An S-rank hunter who can move the giant gears of destiny has appeared. System notification, your stats have increased. Strength 72,534 to 91,612. Reflexes 62,212 to 78,190. Vitality 68,593 to 90,642. Stamina 66,093 to 77,102. Agility 81,382 to 96,623. By combining skills, Sangwoo's power increased significantly and with just one blow he sent the monster to hell. After destroying it, Sangwoo absorbed its stats. Of course the pain still came, Sangwoo gritted his teeth and endured it. He knelt down. Raven also noticed, every time he suddenly increased his stats, his muscles ached. Raven grabbed Sangwoo's hand. Are you okay? Why are you bothering with it? We can handle it ourselves, he replied. How can I just sit there and watch? But because of that accidental handshake, Sangwoo accidentally revealed his secret skill to Raven. It was just a touch, but Raven immediately realized that his energy had completely changed. What happened? He looked at the tired young man before him and wondered how he could have gotten stronger so quickly. Raven whispered, it seems like you have a monster-killing skill to increase stats. Sangwoo was surprised. He was frustrated, he was so sharp. At this point Sangwoo confessed, yes. On the opposite corner, Scully was still amazed at Sangwoo. What the hell, he's stronger than I thought. While Dion was still confused, it seemed like the swordsman knew him. Anyway, Mr. Raven, how did you know? Before Sangwoo could finish asking, Jumper interrupted, so he was the hunter who held off that monster until now. He gave his compliments and asked what his name was, which was a very brave act. If possible, could you tell me your name? Sangwoo hesitated for a moment. He is Jumper, I am Sangwoo. Jumper stiffened. Jung Sangwoo. Jumper stroked his chin. Jung Sangwoo, Jung Sangwoo. Jung Sangwoo, seeing Jumper keep on nagging about his name, was stunned. Jumper, after a while of nagging, he with wild eyes smiled evilly. To be honest, this is the first time I heard that name. Sangwoo cursed inwardly. Of course, I'm not famous enough for an S-rank hunter like him to know me. I'm quite famous in Korea anyway. Jumper asked again, where were the other hunters who looked exactly like him? Just now, they were here. Sangwoo replied, well, they are my clones, but he couldn't say much before he was interrupted, this time by Raven. I see them leaving to clean up the mess. They are great hunters. Repairing damage is their top priority. Sangwoo was surprised. Jumper turned his back, his face hidden. Aha, what a pity, so can everyone here come to my villa to play? Sangwoo was curious. Huh, villa? Jumper explained with a smile, we just fought a monster this strong, at least we should have a small party after the battle. Let's drink wine and eat delicious food to relax after the tiring hunt. In another place, a servant ran in, breathless, Master, Master. The man calmly asked, it seems you have news about the creator of the labyrinth, is everything okay? The servant reported in a panic, the dungeon's labyrinth has collapsed, and the creator of the labyrinth is also dead. A group of S-rank hunters attacked the giant white skeleton demon, and more importantly, I guess they even obtained the 7 deadly sins. The man was stunned. How could that be? Just as Jumper said, he brought the hunters who fought there earlier. The space was luxurious and lavish, filled with people of high rank and authority. And there were reporters too. Sangwoo was puzzled. Such a big party was called a small party. The others were already enjoying the party atmosphere. Familiar hair, honey. Haeyeon walked over. She was wearing a tight orange dress. What do you think? Do I look weird? Sangwoo blushed and stammered. It's beautiful. She smiled shyly. Really? I've never worn this type of dress before. Sangwoo regained his composure and asked her, your skills are amazing anyway. What have you been practicing? Haeyeon continued, huh? Didn't I tell you? Raven also came from afar to ask Sangwoo, do you feel better using your internal energy? He turned back, Mr. Raven. Raven smiled, when I suddenly saw you use swordsmanship like that, I was so surprised that I had to exclaim, what is that? That is the first step to reaching the high level of Storm Messenger swordsmanship. Your clones are using it very well. Sangwoo replied in annoyance, those clones are smart too. While we're talking about clones, why don't you tell Jumper about my skills? Hearing Sangwoo's question, Raven hesitated for a moment before answering, should we say intuition? I've met him a few times before, but I can't seem to figure out what's going on in his head. He's always trying to save people, and it feels like he's attacking the cesspool with the least amount of damage to humanity. Raven whispered into Sangwoo's ear. The answer to the question left him dumbfounded, but it was Jumper who had made all of humanity deeply connected to that system. He already knew what it meant for all of humanity to be weakening. Sangwoo frowned, the end of the world. The two continued to talk. One day that skill of yours will become famous, but for now, you have to be careful. I understand, especially for Jumper. I wonder how much more influential he is. Haeyeon lamented on the sidelines. The two of them did not let her join in their conversation. Raven continued, but unlike him, Bless and Char Dion are on our side. Sangwoo froze. Wait, what? Bless? Haeyeon wondered, brother, not Mr. Bless, come to think of it, your sister. Raven was interrupted before she could finish. Was it Mr. Bless who healed me? Where is he now? Scully was standing in front of the wine rack. He picked up a bottle and sighed. I've tried all of these brands. I'd better go home before those reporters come. While I was thinking, a guy appeared beside me. Scully almost sent the bottle flying. He shouted, you? One of the hunters who looked exactly the same. Upstairs, Jumper stepped out to welcome the distinguished guests. Thank you all for gathering here today. I wonder if everyone enjoyed the party? As everyone knows, this party is to celebrate our successful defeat of the giant white skeleton demon. Already people are shouting his name. You did it again, Jumper. You formed an assault party with S-rank hunters very quickly. I heard that the casualties were also very small compared to the level of that monster. Jumper's face was serious. About that, there was something I needed to tell everyone here. I wasn't the one who reduced the casualties and kept that monster in the dungeon. The real hero is here with us. Everyone is surprised. Reporters are taking out their cameras to record. Then Jumper revealed the identity of the hero, Korean hunter Jung Sang-woo. He was the main character of this dungeon raid. With his physical clone skill, he stood up to save those people and risked his life to buy time for the monster. While Haeyeon was surprised, it seemed like he would really become famous. Raven remained silent because he knew clearly that this was not a good thing. So in such a short time he already investigated Jung Sang-woo. There's no point in hiding it. Besides, he's focusing all the attention on him like this. Jumper is being deliberate, so I want to take this opportunity to say this. I think he is qualified to become the first S-rank hunter in Korea. Furthermore, the Enlightened Group will also place a memorial in that dungeon to honor his achievements and will reward him handsomely. The news is breaking. The reporter is sweating. Hey, did you write that down? This is important news. The entire audience was in an uproar. Jung Sang-woo, Hunter Jung Sang-woo is here right now, right? Go find him and interview him, the new S-rank hunter. Dion sipped his tea. A new S-rank hunter? Junyoung was frozen in place. Jung Sang-woo, an S-rank hunter. The rest of the people were still searching. Hunter Jung Sang-woo, where is he? The door opened. I saw him come in here just now. It must be him. Let him go, you damn lunatic. There was a scream from inside the door. Well, Sang-woo was licking his feet begging Scully, please heal my sister. I'll do anything you want. I'll lick her. I really will. And Scully was panicking and begging, no, let me go first, then we'll talk. The more Sang-woo talked, the more excited he became, bringing his tongue closer. You probably think I don't dare. I'll lick your shoes. And then this scene was captured by the camera, by so many eyes. Raven and Haeyeon stood still in disgust, while cameras flashed. Damn it, both Sang-woo shouted, no, it's not like that, it's just a misunderstanding. Scully was flustered and tried to shake Sang-woo's hand off. Damn it, let go. And that became a hot news. Travor picked up the newspaper. Now even in the association, everyone is talking about Jung Sang-woo. Also, they want you to promote his hunter Jung Sang-woo to S-rank hunter. Haesong's face darkened. Did he really want me to do that? The grand banquet was held by Jumper. He invited the hunters who had contributed to the battle, but the main purpose was to provoke Sang-woo's identity. And Haesong also received the information and he was very angry. Travor fell down. Travor gasped. Haesong walked over. Travor, aren't we both in trouble? Haesong rolled his eyes. We are partners. You give me that research project and I will guarantee you the research facility, resources and your safety. That was a condition of our agreement. Travor objected. I don't think it's fair that I should be held responsible for the loss of the beauty potion. Isn't protecting the finished product part of the job's safety? Haesong was furious, grabbed Travor's neck and squeezed so hard that Travor could hardly breathe. Look, just having you near me is already a huge risk for me. Everything you do is a loss for me. I saved you from the FBI agents. They are looking for you very hard. Haesong ordered that within a month, he must produce enough medicine to replace the amount of medicine that was stolen. If you can't do it, then neither the FBI nor even your amazing eye will be able to trace you anywhere in the world. The phone rang. Haesong picked up uncomfortably. What? The other end of the line said, it's me, Byung-hun. It's about time to make a statement. Haesong snapped. Listen, no matter who it is, even if that Jumper guy comes all the way here, I won't let that Sang-woo guy become an S-rank hunter faster than me, understand? Byung-hun continued, but there was nothing wrong with that reason. His white bone spirit was already rated as S-rank. Since Hunter Jung Sang-woo had captured that monster and even had evidence of it, we had no choice but to acknowledge it. Haesong's face darkened. The reason? The other S-rank hunters helped Jung Sang-woo in that hunt so he could complete the mission. That can be used as a reason. Tell them that we cannot accept his promotion because of someone helping like that. Byung-hun sweats. If so, then they would want us to come up with a comprehensive solution that fits the situation. Haesong continued, of course to that extent, we will send Jung Sang-woo to them, to Africa where the great disaster has attacked the Korean hunting team. The cunning in every word Haesong said made Byung-hun speechless. There are S-class monsters there, aren't there? He'll have to go there to quell them. That's the condition set by the Hunter Association. If he manages to leave that place safely as we requested, at the very least, you and I will have no choice but to acknowledge him. Afterwards, at the WA International Hunter Association, the association made a decision that they could not confirm that Jung Sang-woo had hunted the S-class monster by himself. In the control room, this is really special. Other countries would not hesitate to change the data to create as many S-rank hunters as possible. But Korea is the opposite. Should we put more pressure on them? Jumper continued, it's fine, just leave it alone. Let's wait and see how the association reacts. The Korean Hunter Association is so corrupt, we can't predict when it will all come to light. I think we should take this as an opportunity to clean it up. Jumper angrily covered his face. The Hunter Association and Jung Sang-woo, I don't know who can stand in the end, but predicting and imagining the outcome is also part of what makes this job interesting. Jumper turned around and told his subordinates to just ask for a safe solution from the Korean Association for this problem. His subordinates were curious. Where was he going next? Jumper just walked and landed, trying something new to change the atmosphere, and catching a few more bad guys. The newspapers are full of pictures of Jung Sang-woo with his legendary shoe licking in the content. Korea's first S-rank hunter. What will happen to Hunter Jung Sang-woo? Korean hunter Jung Sang-woo has become the center of attention. His actions have brought about extremely impressive results and professional hunters have evaluated him as Korea's first S-rank hunter. Raven raised her foot and teased Sangwoo, "Oh my god, my shoes are dirty, can you do something about this?" Sangwoo gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. "I told you to stop." Sangwoo replied helplessly, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it, it was my choice anyway." Back at that moment, the reporters were asking questions in a rush. "Hunter Jung Sangwoo, what was your relationship with the S-rank hunters? Was there some kind of agreement between everyone in the hunt for the S-rank monster?" Scully panicked. Damn it, using the holy body skill, holy power would flow throughout the entire body. The space portal opened, and Scully entered. He grabbed Sangwoo's shirt and dragged him along. "Hey, follow me." Then both of them jumped out of the window. The reporters were in a panic. They jumped out of the window. Chase after them quickly. They both escaped successfully. Sangwoo exclaimed, "Oh," Scully spoke up, "this is why I wanted to leave before the reporters caught me." And now he reacted to Sangwoo's question from earlier. "What now? What's wrong with your sister? What kind of illness is it? Tell me that first." Sangwoo stuck out his tongue. "Can you cure her?" Scully grumbled in frustration. "At least tell me what the disease is." Sangwoo was silent. Then he replied, "Ghost virus." Scully paused. Sangwoo continued, "The doctor said the only thing that could save her was an elixir or a healer like him." Scully stroked the cross around her neck, and he stammered back, "That doctor is a quack. First of all, curing the ghost virus is hard, even for me, but I can go see what I can do." Sangwoo was still. If even he couldn't do it, who? Scully countered, "Listen, the ghost virus will continue to replicate as long as there is enough mana to keep it going. The only way to completely eliminate the virus is to starve it to death, until it consumes all of the host's mana." Sangwoo was confused. If so, wouldn't the host die too? Scully continued, "This is why I said it is so difficult to cure. The cure is extremely dangerous. Resurrect them right before the new host enters a state of clinical death, because the body's mana supply runs out. The chances are 50 to 50, what do you think?" Sangwoo thought back and muttered, "If I didn't have the chance to get the elixir, I would have taken that chance from you, but that's not the case now. He said I could contact him if I changed my mind in the future. I have his number." Raven nodded. "Okay, I'm done here, so I'll be leaving soon." Haeyeon was curious. "Where are you going now, Hung?" Junyoung stood with his hands on his hips and pleaded, "Help me practice." Sangwoo replied, he had some work to do. I don't know why, but Sangwoo tried to use his skills and it didn't work. His skills weren't working smoothly. At the same time, elsewhere, Ericl sat on a chair listening to his subordinate's presentation, a new S-rank hunter and the 7 deadly sins. Everything was going perfectly as we wished. Red eyes and a nod, "Yes." Your subordinate continued, "As you said, the Korean Hunter Association is downplaying the important role and talent of Hunter Jung Sangwoo in the White Bone Demon Hunt. However, that can be easily solved if we take care of Haesong." He made a suggestion to the Ericl, but was rejected. "Everything will proceed as the Ericl said. We will change the plan to better suit the situation. Leave the assassination of Haesong aside. I will give you a new mission, 2 years of long-term spying on the Hunter Organization in Alaska from now on." The subordinate was surprised. The plan had not changed until now, but why? He was curious. "Ericl, what future did you see?" Ericl was furious. "This is an order, quickly leave this place and carry out your new mission." Outside, the subordinates gathered to protect their leader, the intruder. But one person died. 2 people, what? I couldn't see anything. There was one last person. She couldn't keep up with the intruder's speed and was gone too. Who is it? Help. Inside, Ericl urged his subordinates to quickly complete the mission. "We don't have much time. I have prepared the teleportation scroll." The sound of a clash outside has attracted his attention. "Who is coming here?" The last one died, screaming, "Stop him." Ericl replied with crimson eyes, "The pinnacle of humanity." The guard shouted in fear, "Open, open the gate." The night was dark, and everyone welcomed a new guest, the first S-rank hunter. The arm crushed the door. The subordinate was confused. Why did you do this?" Jumper with a different look than usual. Ericl was calm. "Is this also a vision of the future? If so, then I will gladly accept it. The pseudo-regression has crossed eternity, Lucas. Jumper or his true identity." Lucas smiled evilly, "I just want to do things simply in this life." The green-haired man standing beside him witnessed his crazy actions and quickly stood up to stop him. "Sorry, but I can't let you in," he said. "If you want to enter the Ericl, please use the main road." Lucas heard that and sighed softly. "You keep babbling like a parrot, how boring." After saying that, he immediately teleported behind him with murderous eyes. But he was no ordinary person. In the blink of an eye he had already leapt forward, successfully increasing the distance between them. Lucas was a little surprised to see this. Oh right, they were on the same side. He glanced meaningfully at Ericl and then turned his gaze back to the blue-haired man in front of him. "So you can also see a glimpse of the future, right?" His eyes were a little darker. Obviously he had guessed correctly. Ericl heard this and quickly spoke up. "Wait, this child is not someone who can change the flow of the future. Even if you let him live, there won't be any problems." Lucas's gaze at Ericl was a bit complicated, as if he was pondering how much of what he said was true. Then he agreed. "Okay." Ericl saw that and the stone in his heart was put down. "Thank you." Then Ericl softly said to the green-haired man, "You've worked hard, go quickly." But he just stood there staring at the scroll. For a long time he took it and whispered. Everything was going according to the prophecy. Suddenly he clenched the scroll and his voice became serious, but in the blink of an eye, he threw the teleportation scroll straight at Lucas, his eyes filled with surprise. Then he flew forward and stabbed a stick into the middle of the flying paper. Due to this inertia, it would cause a fatal blow right to Lucas's face. He clenched the stick in his hand, his voice trembling more and more, but at least this time, I cannot obey your orders. But when he saw Lucas was still safe and sound after successfully dodging his attack, his face darkened even more while Lucas on this side burst out laughing happily. Seeing that, he put away his stick. Are you bored now? Lucas didn't expect this guy to hold a grudge to this extent. Just now, he just casually said that he was boring, but now that he had given him such a big gift, he said excitedly. The situation was getting interesting now. He then sarcastically said to Ericol that he had declared that he would maintain his high resolve. He looked at Ericol, but his eyes were no longer as cheerful as before, but he, the decision maker, a prophet who could see the future, and I, a regressionist who had experienced this. Lucas slowly swung the scroll up into the sky, and in the blink of an eye it turned into a giant black hole. Then he looked at the blue-haired guy. Everyone already knew about that decision and there was nothing surprising about that tearful and noble decision. Hearing that, the blue-haired guy became even angrier. His eyes looking at Lucas had a few more rays of determination. After all, I didn't expect anything about that. After saying that, he controlled the stick to shoot out a palm, creating an explosion like the shot of a cannon with extremely powerful force. The huge explosion had blown a hole as big as the skygate into the building opposite, but the scary thing was that he couldn't see Lucas anywhere. He thought in amazement, that guy dodged his attack in a flash. Now he has to look ahead to see where his next attack will come from. He then tried to look into the future and saw that in just a moment Lucas would tear him into pieces. Seeing this, he tried to use all his abilities, simulating thousands of scenarios to find a chance to survive. But then he stopped dead silent, as if he had seen his inescapable fate. He turned his gaze towards his master, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusing emotions. I'm sorry, Lord Ericol.